Good Monday morning. Another fabulous sports weekend, depending on who you root for. What sport do you like? Some historic moments, some dud moments. But welcome to Easter Monday. Everybody have a good Easter?
Yes, great Easter.
All right.
Incredible Easter. It was a mixed bag of sports, and luckily for me, none of my teams are good enough to be involved in any of the activities that have been going on this weekend. So I sat back and watched it with an unbiased eye, and it was fun. It was weird. It was enjoyable.
Is it that I would think that you could enjoy sports a little bit more?
For me, without having a team in there,
Yeah.
I would much rather have a team in the playoffs than watching everybody else's teams play. No offense to everybody else's teams. I hope that your team won.
No offense. You hate everybody else's teams.
But if I'm being honest with you, if it were up to me, my team would be better than all of you. And I would be watching them beat your team. So, no, sports are not more enjoyable when I can't root for anybody. No, I want the stress. I want the sweat. That's why I bet. If my teams,
pamphlet. Exactly. Have you read the pamphlet?
I have. I read it every day, like you tell me to. But if my teams were good, I wouldn't have to bet because I would just be stressed already watching them. Now, because they're bad, I have to bet. So I get a sweat.
In the betting world, were you stressed yesterday that Jesus was minus 270 that he was going to rise?
No, I hammered it.
That is like the lock of the betting season. Is that on Easter Sunday, Jesus getting out. But there's also, so last night.
Minus 270? It was only minus 270?
Well, it is a little bit low.
Okay.
A little bit low.
Yeah.
But it's the lock. I mean,
it's the lock of the century, some would say, or centuries, as other people would say.
Brian Edwards the other day, I'm not sure why he didn't slip that in there.
Should have been.
Hey, guys, there's going to be a thing on Sunday if you want to go win some money. I'm sure you could get a prop bet, right?
I'm like, in Jesus' last 18 Easters, he's risen in all 18. He looks really good. You know, if we're talking about the Lenten season, he's been really solid. So I like minus 270. I'll put it in there.
Now, on a serious note about religion,
yes,
because I'm going to tie WrestleMania into it, and the story that will dominate the news cycle today. So randomly in the middle of the night, I get up after watching a interesting WrestleMania. Makes me appreciate last year and the crowd in Philadelphia even more after watching what happened last night in the main event. But you randomly wake up in the middle of the night, and I got my phone. I know I violate every rule that they say. This is how you can sleep well. Yeah. No, don't go to bed with your phone. Like leave it in another room charging or whatever.
That would never happen.
That does not happen for me.
Ever.
Because in the middle of the night, I will wake up and roll over and I will look at the phone. So randomly, I just woke up in the middle of the night, looked at the phone. And if you've not heard by now, Pope Francis has passed away at the age of 88 on Easter Monday. After making an appearance yesterday, was not able to do the Easter Mass. Became a meme on TikTok of the rollout of Pope Francis, who at 88, one of the longer serving popes, and he's battled some illness, and he is very polarizing for things that he has done, but he still is the Pope. So there was a meme on TikTok, and I don't know if this is like battling with karma and you're screwed. It was set to when they were showing him being rolled out to the meeting balcony. To the John Cena music, like John Cena's entrance last night. I thought the Pope's entrance on Easter was a lot better than John Cena's entrance. But this is the thing about the Pope and when I was a little kid, and you're going to a Catholic school, so you learn all about the popes.
Yes.
You study the popes, you know the popes, you got to do book reports on the popes, you got to do presentations on the popes. But there also, when I was younger, there were a lot of popes that died regularly.
Sure.
It would happen a lot because in St. Pius X, and God bless them, and it's yes, God does bless them. It's a wonderful school in Urbandale. But we would, whenever it was time for the smoke to be released, they would wheel in a TV into our classroom, and we would watch how the whole process went to determine the next pope. Like if it's black smoke, inconclusive. If it's white smoke, we got a pope.
Yes.
But that used to happen a lot more when I was younger. It seemed like every 2 or 3 years, there would be a pope that would pass away. Pope Francis, lasting this long is pretty amazing. But that'll be the story of the day. But randomly, just wake up, you look at your phone, and you're like, oh, man, He got to serve on Easter.
Yep.
And then passed away on Easter Monday.
Are you saying they need
Vatican.
to go younger, maybe like a Kenny Dillingham type?
Well, wasn't Pope Francis relatively young?
I thought so.
He was. So funny
First,
enough,
Latin American Pope.
You talk about how when you went to Catholic school, a lot of popes died, happened all the time. When I went to Catholic school, I actually was a part of the generation where my pope did not die. My pope resigned. Benedict.
Is that a
decided.
humble brag?
No, not a humble brag.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Considering why he resigned, I wouldn't consider that a brag.
No, it's not a brag. He just resigned. He stepped down. He just
kind of disappeared.
He disappeared. He went away.
He was no longer allowed in the Pope Mobile.
Yeah, no. So that was
Pope Francis got one last trip in the Pope Mobile,
and then. So
it was a fitting goodbye.
I was taken aback by the news this morning, considering the fact that
Whoa.
On the news, like at the nightly news yesterday when I was watching it, they were like, "Oh my God, he made a surprise appearance. No one thought he would be here. This is quite incredible. Look at Pope Francis." And then I wake up this morning and he's passed away. And now I feel a little bit weird about the fact that they rolled out a dude who was literally dying, and he was out there, and then they brought him back, and then he passed away. Like that was
I think it's.
See, I see it more like you did.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
he was able to with that audience because
sure.
I mean, Easter Sunday at the Vatican is
kind of a big
very,
deal.
very special, and he was able to hold one more gathering, for that, and then on Easter Monday, and now he'll be upstairs, and he will hear all the people complaining about the C&E Catholics who on Easter show up at 8:59 for a 9 a.m. mass.
It's like when the Lakers would come to town.
Absolutely lose their mind.
No, it's true, because they'd open the upper deck of the Alamo Dome. That's how it was at our church, because I was raised Catholic, and we had an upper deck, only open C&E and Palm Sunday.
I showed up to mass 20 minutes early because my dad, I know my dad, I don't live with my dad right now, but if I told my dad that I rolled in 2 minutes early, he would be absolutely irate with me. So knowing
you got tailgate. Yeah. You can't just walk in. It's not a Laker game.
No, it's not. 20 minutes early.
Yeah.
That'd be a very interesting move to tailgate before going to church. Now you kind of technically tailgate before Christmas, but Easter's a big one. Like Christmas, because people are afraid of getting shut out, so they get in early.
Yes.
I think Easter, you think you can stroll in at 8:59 for the 9 a.m. service.
Now I'll tell you this right now, and maybe this is the wrong brag. I got out of the parking lot, though. I was real worried about getting caught up in the parking lot on Easter Sunday. It was a packed church.
I was
the first one out.
Yeah.
It was great. I felt like I was the first one out at the United Center. It was like I got out the doors, got to the car.
You're like a Dodger fan.
I
got
out
in the third inning, you leave in the seventh.
Gibby's hitting a home run, and you see brake lights beyond the wall.
I think it is the first time ever in my life that I was the first person to leave a parking lot. Like typically, like I'm like in the middle of the pack. I was out of there. I was bang, and then I went right to brunch. It was good. Ate. Came back home, cleaned the house, and then watched a very mid WrestleMania.
It's a full day.
You'll see a lot of the news coverage today, and the whole white black smoke thing. Like that was a big deal when I was in school because I can still remember Mrs. Gannon's class, and I don't remember which pope it was, or the transition of
no relation
one pope
to Rich,
another.
right?
Not even close.
Okay,
Mary Gannon.
Oh,
yeah. Met her later in
Rich Gannon.
Met her later in life. Out, where you. Sometimes when you see your teacher and she's not in school and you're kind of like, whoa, that looks very odd. When I was in high school, I ran into her and I said, hello, Mrs. Gannon. She said, no. She goes, you can call me Mary. And I go, no. To me, you'll always be Mrs. Gannon. But
thank you.
She was a very pious woman teaching at St. Pius X. They would roll in the TV and you would watch when they had an announcement, like there was breaking news, like Peter Jennings or Dan Rather or Tom Brokaw would break in and now it was time to see what smoke was coming out of the chimney at the Vatican.
What was the longest you went with black smoke coming out?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
We went like about 4 days, and then the white smoke came out, and then Pope Francis. So those are the only two events. There's only ever been 2 events where they rolled out a TV and they stopped doing whatever we were doing to watch the event. The first was Barack Obama's inauguration into the White House.
Makes sense where you lived.
Yes. And the second one was Pope Francis becoming the Pope. Those are the only 2. Every other world event, screw it. Doesn't matter. Those 2, no, we're stopping everything we're doing.
I feel like I've done my duty. I once had Pope trading cards.
You once had Pope trading cards?
Yeah, there was to teach us about the Pope in grade school.
NBA hoops or
where would you buy Pope trading cards?
No, they had like you could go to a religious store and they had Pope trading cards.
There's religious stores? Like a magic shop, like but for religion.
Yeah. I don't know that I would call them a magic shop, but there's There are
They get insulted
stores
by
where
that.
you can go and buy, like for
I said
if
like
you're-
a
if you're
magic
looking,
shop,
if
like
you're
a
looking
magic
for like
store.
a gift for somebody for the first communion or Baptist or something.
Yeah.
there are those shops. I don't know that there is.
They sell those
And
candles.
you get trading cards?
Well, I went. They got us trading cards, so that's how we learned about the popes was through trading cards.
I got a
pretty
Pope
good.
John Paul IV rookie
Hey,
card. Oh my God.
Think about it. It was.
I got Ewing
hey,
rookie card.
It was a brilliant idea because what are we as kids? We're trading baseball
Collecting
cards.
cards.
So
Sure.
we get excited about the Pope. I mean, it's a great way to teach.
Do you have my sleeve? Anybody got a sleeve? This one's a refractor. I need to put it in here. It's a real valuable one.
I mean, sometimes you would get a common and it'd be a cardinal and be like, "Da!" But you never got like the authentic. You never got like
You get a
the card.
cardinal. You get a cardinal and get disappointed.
Well, there's got to be the equivalent
Yeah.
of the Joe Wolf card, the
Oh
Will
my
Purdue
God, I got
card.
it. Dang it! I only got an archbishop.
Or we never got a card that had like a piece of the Pope's robe.
Oh, well,
That would have been great.
That's
Oh,
a
wow.
relic. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that goes
Hey,
into
That would have been
the
like
actual church.
I'm surprised because WWE last night was sucking up to Tops. I'm surprised that
They were
Tops-
sucking up to everybody.
Tops
Everything
didn't do
was
anything for the
sponsored.
Pope. All right, lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard on this Easter Monday. Evan Bland's going to stop by at 8:30. It is big week in Lincoln. Lots of excitement for the Husker games.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
You know what would capture the excitement and get people fully or semi-hussed? If they would announce today
Yeah.
how the equipment sale is going to work.
Yes.
What is going to be available? How many signed
Mhm.
white paneled footballs will be available? How many leftover polos will be available? All
Got to
the
get a
other
quarter
stuff
zip for Matt.
Thank
they're
you.
going to get rid of.
Thank
You
you,
need
Jimmy.
two.
At least
Yeah.
someone's been
Black and
listening.
red.
That would
Don't mess with white.
that would be that would be good today. Like to get the equipment list out there and how that's all going to work. But
Hi-
it's a big week in Lincoln.
I need the prices. Gonna need to see the prices.
Fair.
I mean,
Got
just
budget.
got to put a price on that bad boy. I'm not wanting this to be like, I'm realistic.
Mhm.
Okay. I know that this isn't going to be a discount fire sale. And part of me doesn't want it to be a discount fire sale because then it's going to be an
I don't think it'll be
absolute
terrible. Though.
hellhole.
the
to
last
get
time they
into.
did it, some things were reduced.
Yeah.
But I don't. Very few things were like full price.
I don't want to pay. If everything is full price, I'm going to be disappointed. But I also don't want everything to be like super cheap because then there are going to be too many people there. I want it to be.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of people.
No,
there'll
I
be a
know
lot of people
regardless.
regardless.
I know regardless whether or not what the
Are you
prices
trying
there'll be
to
a
cut
lot of
out the
people there.
riffraff? You're not interested in the
I-
riffraff that might be
I'm not-
standing in
I'm
line
not
at 4 a.m. on
Yes.
Saturday morning.
He's afraid his only quarter
no.
zip options are going to be 4XL.
Well, here's my thing. I want to cut out.
Wash them; they'll shrink.
I don't want it to be low enough where there are actually people who are camping out at like 3:30 in the morning
Weather's supposed to be
trying
nice.
to like get first in line for this thing. But I also
No. I think wouldn't that be a good sign though?
no because I
there's
don't.
good
But
stuff there.
because I'm not going to camp
for
out.
Nebraska, but
I'm
not for Matt.
I'm not going to get there 3 hours beforehand to be in this line. I'm going to get there probably at the most 30 minutes before the doors open. And so if there are a lot of people camping out at 3:30 in the morning, that means that the prices are low enough where it's going to be a hellhole in terms of how long the line is going to be and how many people are going to be there.
Stay in Lincoln. You
But-
and some friends go at like 6. Take some
No,
breakfast. Get a
no.
nap later.
No,
I think
I don't
you'll
want to camp out.
I think you will have the curious collectors that will be in line early.
I know. I'm just saying. I don't
For
want
the-
it to be
for the
low
mystery
enough
bag.
where it's like, hey, you have to get here 3 hours beforehand if you're gonna have a shot at getting anything. At the same time, I want it to be slightly. I don't want to pay face value for everything. I want it to be slightly.
Of course, you don't want to pay face value.
No, well, who wants to pay face value?
I don't think I remember the last garage sale they did. Most of the stuff was not face value unless it was in it was still packaged.
Yeah,
Most of the stuff
Okay.
was you could notice a difference, but it wasn't. They weren't like they didn't have like a cheap bin. They didn't have like the dollar. Here's the $1.25.
Here's the
store.
Mike Riley era.
Yeah,
Here's Callahan's polos.
wouldn't it be something if they separated it like that?
yeah. It's like everything is way more expensive for Osborne and Solich, and then it's like it just goes down.
Evan Bland will stop by at
Be
8:30,
funny.
and then Jesse Rogers will stop by at 9 with a thought or two. Maybe his recollection of the biggest thing that happened at Wrigley Field this weekend.
The Cubs winning on Friday. Matt Shaw being sent down
That
to
is
AAA
close.
Iowa.
That is close.
Ian Happ lining out right to the shortstop for the Cubs could lose in extra innings.
That's close.
Hot dogs went on sale. I don't know.
Nope. Well, kind of.
Okay.
A seagull with a wiener in its mouth. Well, we'll see if Jesse was at Wrigley when that happened over the weekend, because that's one of the top moments at Wrigley Field this year for the best offense in baseball. That's
Yes.
the lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. WrestleMania was ruined by The Rock. The Rock has held wrestling hostage, and we got Travis Scott last night and a meh final between Cena and Rhodes.
It was so, I don't want to vomit because it was bad. I want to vomit
Don't.
because of how meh it was.
Well, it makes you appreciate, like I said last year, because it ended a storyline and then kind of kicked back up this year, how great WrestleMania 40 was,
So
how great
good.
it was in Philadelphia,
So good.
and how WrestleMania this year was lopsided. Like, the lead up Saturday night was meh,
Yeah.
and then the triple threat came, and that was a banger. I mean, we had Paul Heyman on Easter weekend. He pulled a Judas. He did a tribute to Judas
himself.
Okay, and then yesterday, you got off to a really, really good start.
So good.
You're like, okay, this is leading up. This is going to be great. And then you had Cena and Rhodes, and it didn't deliver.
It was the most just average to like. Okay. If you were expecting John Cena and Cody Rhodes to have like a incredible 5-star classic, okay, that wasn't going to happen. All right. John Cena is an old wrestler now. He cannot have those classics like he used to. Okay.
He did have a lot of, you know what? That's a great point, because he had he did some old school stuff.
Yes.
At the beginning of that
like
match.
the drag,
Yeah,
the head drag, and like it was a real
Yeah.
kind of like they needed to take pauses and breaks, and it wasn't as fast paced because he needed to catch his breath. And credit to Cody Rhodes, he's a very, very good wrestler, but he's not going to carry John Cena to this incredible tight match like maybe some other wrestlers could. So if you were going and expecting that, this wasn't the match for you. You had the wrong expectations.
The Rock
But-
screwed him.
But exactly, like the story needed to complement the wrestling. Like what was going on outside of the ring needed to make that match a classic. That's how the match was going to be a classic. And it didn't happen. And I don't understand. Let's talk about The Rock, because you said The Rock ruined WrestleMania. For those who don't know, The Rock entered himself into the storyline as an incredibly important piece.
He also brought Travis Scott in, but continue.
Yes. And brought Travis Scott in Elimination Chamber, the pay-per-view where John Cena turned heel and shocked the world. He turned heel because of The Rock, because he sold his soul to The Rock.
Mhm.
The Rock is a board member of TKO. He is like one of the most important people in all of wrestling right now, not just the WWE, in all of wrestling. Where the hell was he? And what the hell was he doing that it was so much more important than to be at WrestleMania at a company where you are incredibly important and a storyline that you have insert yourself of being a core piece of? Where was he? Why wasn't he there?
So I think here, in an organization that does these things so well, like it was such a great lead up last night, because
It
Becky
was.
Lynch gets one of the top 5 pops that I've heard.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, here we go, Cena and Cody Rhodes. And probably last year with the ending of a storyline, Cody Rhodes, they caught lightning in a bottle, and they didn't
They did.
expect Cena to retire, so they had to insert that.
Sure.
But here's where The Rock holds that organization hostage, is he just shows up and they have to write him into storylines. He doesn't, like, it's not pre-planned. But
No.
if you're going to do what you did to create Cena Rhodes and to help John Cena become a heel and turn, and he was doing a good job of really playing that into the crowd, and the crowd was starting to be like, okay, this is John Cena, I'm okay with being a heel. But then you bring Travis Scott into the conversation.
Sure.
But Rock just shows up and they have to write him in. I thought it was very telling, and I don't know where he was, and everybody was expecting him to show up, and he never showed up. I get the celebrity manager, Travis Scott. I don't get the, in the middle of the match, here he comes. And
Why does he have an entrance?
It takes like 35 minutes for him to get to the ring. But I thought it was very telling, and maybe some more stuff will come out, because it's also it's a tough way with Cena and Rhodes and Cena retiring that Cena's going to win, and they already gave away the ending because McAfee said on Friday Cena's going to join him on Monday,
Yeah,
so we already know that he's going to win.
Absolutely.
But here's with The Rock, so he just shows up, and so they are forced to write him in.
Yeah.
I think it's very telling about this whole storyline post the Elimination Chamber to set up WrestleMania 41's main event. Triple H did not mention him in his Hall of Fame speech. I think that
Ooh.
is very telling.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
I did not recognize he didn't say anything about him at one point. Now, part of me thinks that is slightly interesting because of the fact the relationship that they have and the importance that The Rock holds in the company. What I do want to mention that, though, and maybe not to read too much into it, The Rock definitely in that era of wrestling was very separated from Triple H in terms of their cliques and in terms of the people they hung out around, right? The Rock was with one group, Triple H was in another group. They had some great feuds, but it was in the backstage area. They've never really like crossed paths or had like a ton to do with one another, but it is no mention. I didn't know that. No mention is quite incredible from him. But
because whether they're not in the same clique or not,
sure.
Matt, Rock has a place in wrestling. I mean,
absolutely.
You can't tell the story of wrestling without The Rock. Now you can't tell the story of wrestling without Travis Scott.
See, I get it from the point of like, okay, these guys have to film movies and these guys have like other things that they have to get to and they have busy schedules and whatnot. Yeah. When you insert yourself as the most important piece of one of the biggest wrestling stories, John Cena retiring and turning heel, of not only just like the last decade or 20 years, one of the biggest wrestling stories ever, you show up.
Yeah.
You show up and you're there because you've put yourself in there. And it's like at this point, and I said this to you, and I don't know if I said it on air, so I'll say it right now. Last year, they invested a lot in part-timers, and they got their schedules cleared up, and they got lucky and ended up being great. This year, they invested a lot in part-timers, and they didn't show up. Yeah. And we were talking about, why isn't there a bigger buildup? Why isn't there more excitement about this WrestleMania? Because the people that they built this card around decided that other things were more important, which is a hunk of S that The Rock is a board member of TKO. He's no longer just a wrestler.
Yeah, and everybody was waiting for him to come out.
And then Travis Scott. Why does Travis Scott get a full walk down? Why does he get a full entrance? Right, I mean, like
he was just strolling, man. That thing took so long.
The Viking Raiders or the War Raiders were a part of WrestleMania, and they had a 35-second entrance. Travis Scott gets a full saunter down the longest ramp of all time.
I mean, it was a good weekend for Cactus Jack because he was at Coachella the day before, and then he was like he's one of the main characters of WrestleMania on Sunday night. But here's where the letdown is. You had a lot of cameos this weekend. I mean, a lot of cameos.
Yeah.
Hell, you had Justin Verlander's doppelganger, Joe Henry, come out and wrestle Orton last night.
Say his name.
So all of these cameos and really, really cool cameos where even Stone Cold killed a woman with an ATV.
She flopped.
He was also drunk. But all the cameos.
Yeah.
And Travis Scott leads to that. I mean, hell, bring Bud Crawford, who was there last night. They should have brought him out.
Here's another
had him involved in a match.
Here's another thing too. Like, John Cena sells a soul to The Rock the entire time. The lead up to the WrestleMania match didn't mention The Rock once. Even on the pre-show, they were like, "Hey, he hasn't mentioned The Rock. He hasn't mentioned The Rock. I wonder if The Rock's going to be here." I thought Big E Langston. I'm always going to call him Big E Langston. I don't care that they removed his last name. Big E Langston during the pre-show goes, "Well, you're going to have The Rock involved." And I thought he spoiled it. Like, I thought he had the script, and I thought he knew what was going to happen, and he, just kind of blurted that out. And I was like, oh, The Rock's coming tonight? Look, this WrestleMania, overall, night 1 and night 2, was a 7, okay? I give it a 7 out of 10.
At least it was over before 10 p.m. last night.
But, unlike a lot of West Coast basketball games, at the same time, it's a 7, and it had maybe one of the greatest matches of all time on the card.
Yeah.
Night 1's main event is my favorite match ever. And I think it is easily.
Whoa.
It is my favorite match ever.
I like your hyperbole.
No, it is. It is. Because I'm sitting, even before the bell rang, I'm sitting with my roommate. And Dan goes, it's incredible how it would take me an hour and a half to explain to someone why this matters, why this is so important. You have to date back a decade to explain the stakes of Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk, which is the beauty of wrestling, right? That match happens. It's incredible from bell to bell. And yet, it is one of the greatest matches of all time. And yet, this still is an average 7 WrestleMania because it was just meh. Yeah. Just meh.
But at least people that were at the Roomba in Vegas got free refills on their drinks. So there you have that. And now we have Now we have a building that has hosted a Super Bowl and WrestleMania before the Raiders have won a playoff game in it. I think that's fabulous. All right, you have the lineup for the show. Lots to discuss. Busy weekend in sports. It is not only the weekend that wraps up spring football in Lincoln, but it also is draft time.
Yes.
We all head to Green Bay Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Prepare yourself to watch Kevin Costner's movie Draft Day and get back to me. That's how you begin the week.
Come on, Tom, you pancake eating.
We'll have many discussions about the upcoming draft that will include 1, 2, maybe even 3 former Huskers, unlike something that happened 41 years ago. All right, we'll get into all that as we roll till 10. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. I don't watch the show, but my timeline last night was, oh my God, Curry, meh, WrestleMania sucked. And then Last of Us. I don't watch the show, but was there something major because people I follow were watching, and I don't want to give a spoiler, but I've never watched it. I know of it.
Yeah.
But something major must have happened last night.
Well,
people were angry at their show.
I haven't watched it or played the video game, but the video game was a phenomenon. Like it was an incredible, people were like, oh my God, like, this is like everyone was asking me if I'd ever played it, but I don't play those types of games. But I do know that in that show, the girl is always like on the verge of dying. Like the little girl, like she's always about to die or she's always in like trouble. And the dad is always doing something and like always, I don't know what happened, but I guarantee you she almost died or he died or she died or someone very important died. But there's a lot of dying in that.
It's a thorough breakdown.
Game.
That's why it says The Last of Us, I guess.
I've never heard of either one, and you just explained it to me.
I just know that people were like, I can't believe you did that. That was like the sentiment. And they were all, bang, bang, WrestleMania, Last of Us, and what Steph Curry was cooking last night.
Are you into zombie movies?
Not really.
Are you a zombie guy?
Not really.
Do you like zombies, Jimmy?
It depends. If they're nice and they're a good time, sure. I've met some pretty crappy living people, so I might take my chances with zombies.
There are some people who are really into zombies. They are like, that is their type
all
of
have our
thing.
kinks.
Like, there's their type of show. That's their type of movie. I've never understood it. I've never got it. The whole people die, but they're not really dead, and they're trying to kill you. Like, I've never just, I know. It's never, like, satisfied me, or I've never been, like, thrilled or anything, or I'm like...
Watch the original Dawn of the Dead.
Hey, zombie or not, I'm preparing myself to watch Sinners, so...
Are you in on The Accountant too? Are you fired up for The Accountant too?
I will. I got a long list of things. I got live sports going on right now, so that pushes a lot of things back.
I know that's my life.
Lego Maniac writes into the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally. Gary at 1620thezone.com or Matt at 1620thezone.com. I'm always surprised when I hear adults talking about professional wrestling.
Why?
I don't know. 60,000 plus back-to-back nights at the Roomba in Vegas.
We all have our thing.
Professional wrestling. Hey, people that like professional wrestling are very passionate about it. Yeah. And especially when it's WrestleMania weekend, because this is our Super Bowl. But you have to understand, professional wrestling has become mainstream. It will show up on news shows today that John Cena has won his 17th title. I mean, wrestling has come a long way from the days of, damn it, it's unreal to me, to where it's a big deal. I mean, Cody Rhodes is on the Today Show. Cody Rhodes is on ESPN. It's become more mainstream. We all get it. But you know what? We like entertainment.
Entertainment.
We're entertainment. It's the entertainment business. I just wasn't entertained last night.
Movies aren't real. John Wick isn't actually killing people. I mean, those are fake.
Way to give away the spoiler.
Those are fake deaths. Why would you ever like it
on your list?
Jeez.
Well, why not? Why watch it? Thank you.
Those zombies aren't real.
Don't touch the Easter Bunny.
Captain America isn't real. Why do you like that fake stuff? That's what I say to people who ask me why do I like fake
Captain
wrestling?
America,
why do you
Jesse
like fake
Ventura?
movies?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you think like you go to an NFL game and you have a brawl in the stands?
Yeah.
Do you think when you have a brawl at WrestleMania, it's a fake fight?
Like with actual fans or a brawl between the wrestlers?
No, and the fans.
Mm-hmm. That's not a fake fight. There's a. Can you imagine if there's a brawl? If there's a brawl in the stands and one guy hits him, and the crowd goes, "Hey!" and the other guy hits him and goes, "Whoa!" and the other guy hits him.
I think that's what it has to be.
Like it's like
I think two people should do that just for fun.
You never see like fights in the stands at professional wrestling.
Well, yeah, I mean everybody is
unless a wrestler goes into the stands.
Can you imagine if there's a brawl in the stands and then one guy pulls out a chop? And he just chops him, and everybody goes, "Woo!"
That should be that. You're right. That should be the thing. Like, if you're gonna start a fight at a wrestling match,
it needs to be kayfabe.
You have to use wrestling moves, okay? And then you lay the guy out on the railing, and you come down with the people's elbow.
Can you imagine they start calling a match? It becomes a brawl, and then they lock up, and it's like, all right, double arm, toe hold, drag. I'm going to bounce you off the ropes, and I'll put you in a headlock, and then
oh my God, they've broken a seat.
Right, just starts putting up the hand. Yeah, come on, Gary. That'd be funny. Oh,
hey,
I've never seen. That's a great point. I've never seen a brawl at a wrestling event.
If you are going to brawl at a wrestling event, you have to have a fake brawl.
It has to be theatrical.
Does that say something negative about wrestling fans that there hasn't been a brawl? Like, is that a bad connotation that people have? Like, haven't actually wanted to get into an actual fight in the stands.
Is this good or bad?
Exactly. No, that's what I'm asking. Like, are wrestling fans too sissies or too intimidated to not actually fight?
I wouldn't mess
one
with
another?
wrestling fans.
Neither. Well, I wouldn't. I mean, there are some guys who you go to a wrestling. These
are
event, there's
former
some dudes who are
backyard
like,
wrestlers.
That guy.
When I was in high
about
school.
to say, it was like that guy probably wrestled at some point.
That was real.
Now to the sports, the other side of the sports spectrum. This is we're running out of time for the portal. We will be very sad when the portal ends. We'll be very sad when young kids make a decision to move from Knoxville, Tennessee to Westwood in Southern California, Los Angeles, and they only get reportedly $1.5 million in the state that has the highest state income tax.
Yeah.
Well, you know
Tough.
what? Sometimes in life you got to have a backup plan. Sometimes you don't have a backup plan. Sometimes your name is Nico. But the portal for basketball and football is coming to an end. We'll share our favorite memories.
Yeah.
We'll share our who's left to go out there and get. And then we will discuss something that has come to fruition. I think all of us have talked this into existence.
Like when the
trades?
First reported. No. Hey,
that's coming, though. Give it time.
You make fun of me for this idea, but this would make so much sense.
He does. I don't.
In the Tennessee UCLA situation. So they got a quarterback in the winter portal out of Appalachian State.
Yes.
Why not trade him? Why not trade him to Tennessee straight up?
A little bit of cash. Hey, we'll throw you some cash your way just so you can get another portal quarterback just in case.
I mean, what wouldn't that make sense? Because now this kid at UCLA who's gone through spring now is, I mean, I would hope he would stay and compete, but I get it. That's what quarterbacks do. But what if you traded him?
You're going to have kids whose credits can't transfer, and they're like, they've been in school for 7 years, and they're still 4 years away from graduating.
Ain't going to matter. I don't know if you've been watching New Jersey courts in the NCAA. By now, eligibility, you may just have unlimited eligibility and just stay in college forever. But
now, this could be a good thing.
Now, the portal, where the portal worketh, first reported by our friends over at Husker Online and On3, Charmar, who I'm just going to call Marty, because that's what I always called him, running back from Creighton Prep, who transferred from, got into the portal from North Dakota State after a stellar past season, will visit Nebraska. He will visit Nebraska on Thursday. He told Pete Nichols at On3 that he will also visit Miami. Yes. So this Thursday,
Lincoln and Miami, the same place, basically.
Marty Brown will be back in Lincoln for the first time since I think they had him down for like a junior day when he was at Creighton Prep.
Yeah.
But this is it makes perfect sense. What will be the thing that puts you over the top? I mean, I think I like Nebraska's chances, but Miami gets in and he's being represented. So there's going to be agents involved. There's going to be a bag involved. But it is a smart play by Nebraska to pursue this because if you look at their running back room, Marion Parker, who I think they thought would come in as an early enrollee, and he would be at least enough along. Well, maybe not in the mix because there's a gap between EJ and Ives.
Yeah.
But be in the mix where he could be as one of your three. But now you're chasing a guy who is from 45 minutes up the road, who has more of a resume than the guy that you're thinking you would like as your backup running back. Makes perfect sense. That doesn't mean that Ives is pushed out the door because Nebraska will have three. That allows Nelson to develop a little bit more. That allows Parker and Booth. But if you get somebody like this on your campus, and he's an in-state guy, and Iowa State isn't pursuing him, by the way.
Good point.
He's not. It doesn't look like he's going to be a Nebraska clone. You kind of have to close the door. But he will be here on Thursday, first reported by On3.
If they end up getting him, if they end up securing him as to be their running
back,
the
closer,
and to be, whether it be their number one or number two, we'll see if they,
No, he's not going to be their number one.
Well, he could compete. I mean, he could compete.
He will compete.
He will compete.
But I think
that's why I said either number one or number
two. Great addition to the running back room.
Yes, he would be their number two.
If they
would be a nice compliment to Emmett Johnson.
If they end up getting him, I will actually say that they ended up handling this running back situation in terms of the portal really well. If they end up getting him. Because I do think it was a smart decision to go, hey, we're going to address other needs in the winter portal. We're going to go out and get an offensive tackle, defensive guys. We're going to go and get punt returners. We're going to go and get other guys. And then, hey, we believe in the younger dudes that we have in the spring. We're going to give them an opportunity to compete, and we're going to give them an opportunity to establish that they can be a running back too. And then after they haven't done that, we'll go out and get a portal guy. If they end up going out and getting Marty Brown, I think it would be an absolutely phenomenal pickup where, more than likely he'll end up being the number 2 running back, but he comes in, he competes, he has a good fall camp, hopefully. And then, you feel so much more better about that running back room than afterwards than you do before he joins, considering his experience.
Kind of fell into their lap because I don't know if he's not from here.
Sure.
If there is a pursuit of a portal running back.
Now, when he
came, you just roll the dice then and go, okay, we got to get Nelson and Ives coached up, and we got to get something from our 2 freshmen, most importantly, Parker. So it sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
But that's why you can't. That's why you have to get it first.
And I think another thing too, so he comes in and I saw a tweet that he visited in 2022, and I don't know how much contact he might have had with Matt Rule and if there was a relationship built there or whatever. But it just always comes back to, in this day and age in college sports, when you go out and recruit a guy from high school, you never want to break off that branch and you never want to burn that bridge, and you want to keep in contact with them, because even if you don't get him the first time around, you're going to be able to go and get him the second time around or third time around if they enter back in the portal. And so I'm curious, if they end up getting him, what was the previous relationship there built? Was that a part of him looking at Nebraska and coming to Nebraska? Because, he did visit in 2022.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If there was a previous relationship built there, and if that had anything to do with him looking at Nebraska in the transfer portal.
I think that was when Scott Frost was the head coach.
Was it in 20?
I think it was in January of 2022.
Okay. Well, then, then he wasn't there. So,
but there are plenty of people that are in Rule's ear about what Marty Brown can be. Be number 1? Could he be a nice compliment? Yes. Would he be a nice addition to the room? Yes. Would he help make Nebraska better? Yes. All of those things, check, 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 check. Now you just got to get it done. But he is slated to go to visit Nebraska on Thursday and then go to Miami on Monday, he told On3.
Got to close the door. You need him. You need to get him. You need to get him. With 6 carries from Quinn Ives in his career to be RB2, the fact that they're even looking at getting another running back, it tells you that he hasn't established himself as the second running back, or the second running back that they're comfortable enough with giving him carries.
I think again, you don't go through spring and think, okay, unless you tampered, and if people are going to tamper, why not tamper?
Sure.
You don't go through spring and go, okay, we're going to be okay here because Marty Brown's going to go into the portal and then we're going to be able to get him. So we got to say nice things about Ives. It gives you some luxury, and Nebraska's done a really good job in constructing the roster, in my opinion, in the offseason of giving themselves options where they're not going to get caught shorthanded. I think last year the Tommy Hill injury really opened eyes to people about, we've got to build where we have a solid 2 deep, almost all around the place. So if one guy goes down, we're not so attached to him that it just wrecks everything. And when Tommy Hill went down, because they had, where Tommy Hill was at, the quality player, it really upended their defensive back room. And you had guys moving around, and you had guys probably playing more than they should have played in key situations. So the way they constructed the offseason, mainly through the portal, is they said, okay, we're going to have options. We're going to coach ourselves into options of talent we're adding that's established and then developing talent. So if we have a guy go down, like if we have Mazuka go down, we don't miss a beat, and it just doesn't completely wreck our offensive line.
I talked to people last year that during the middle of the year, when Nebraska wasn't playing as well, right? They were like, why did we look so much better at the beginning of the year? Why was our best game of the season against Colorado? And my answer to that was, every team goes through injuries. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, all those guys get banged up. But the problem is that those teams have All-American high school guys, 5-star recruits that have been developing in their program. When they get hurt, they bring in these super talented players. They don't miss a beat. It's like, it's that continuum. Nebraska they don't have that. They don't have, when one guy goes down, they don't have that former 4-star, former 5-star high school All-American dude that's been in their program. And that is the difference. That is the separator between those programs. Do you have the depth? Do you have the development? Do you have that talent to where it's football? You get hurt. Everybody gets hurt. But the best programs have that cog in the machine where they're able to just replace those parts over and over again. And I think also, too, having the college football playoff, knowing that, hey, we're going to have to play 15, 16, even 17 games maybe, if we're going to get to where we eventually want to be, has put that mindset in the coaching staff's head of, hey, we gotta develop. We gotta get depth. We gotta make sure that we are like these programs where when we do get hurt, we can continue.
Mm-hmm. All right, Evan Bland going to join us a little bit later. Jesse Rogers, we'll talk some ball, y'all. Chicago White Sox won yesterday. My race to 54. 60% of their wins have been against the Red Sox this year.
Yes.
First road win yesterday for the White Sox. Patriots Day today. And good luck to our colleague, Josh Peterson, running in the 129th Boston Marathon. I think the coverage starts at 8:30 on ESPN2. I told Josh I would try and pick him out.
I texted him. He says that the hammy is feeling better than it has before he injured it. So,
and then Jimmy, wasn't it 12 years ago, either yesterday or today, that David Ortiz had the famous speech?
What year is this? 25? I think so.
This is the year of our Lord, 2025.
I believe so. It's their city.
Also, he said it a little bit more explicit.
A little bit more. Yeah.
This is also lots happened on this day, and of course, the biggest news. You're waking up this morning. Pope Francis, at the age of 88. Passed away overnight. One in the books, another one to go. It's Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome to lying season. You ready? Or I shouldn't say season. I should say week. Welcome to lying week. Right after Holy Week, it's now lying week.
There's so many lying seasons now in just sports in general.
Whoa.
Like winter transfer portal, spring transfer portal, the NFL draft, NFL free agency, NBA free agency. I feel like outside of just summer baseball, we're always in lying season.
I think this is the biggest lying week because it is draft week.
Oh, by far, yeah.
I would take some delicious chaos. I like my chaos. Nice. I like it like medium rare.
With an offensive tackle on the side.
Don't forget your half price candy today.
You know what? Tennessee, let's shake it up. All right. Don't draft Cam Wood. Let's go somewhere else. Okay. Let's go into full chaos. So all of these people that are doing mocks.
Yeah.
Which, okay. What? Going back to Zach's email, and I get it. The attention towards people that pay attention to professional wrestling. Who is more of a dork? The professional wrestling fan or the diehard mock draft fan?
Are you calling me a double dork? Are you calling me?
You rooted for a team that had a double doink. You might be a double dork.
That was targeted at me because no. There aren't a lot.
Just like
targeted
UFC
me
and wrestling fans, there's not a lot of crossover.
Now he's throwing in UFC too.
There's not a lot of crossover.
Just twice a day.
You know that during breaks,
you're obsessed with mock drafts.
You know that during breaks, I am scrolling through Twitter to see what current news is coming in and trying to keep up. And then the next thing I do is I go ahead and I look at a mock draft. You know that I do that, and then oftentimes I look at you and I go, "Hey, the Chiefs are taking this," or "Hey, the Chiefs are doing that," and we talk about it. That was directed right at me. You took a shot at me.
There's too many mocks. Too many mocks in sports.
So can we talk about mocks? This is a great combo.
No, we can't.
No, this is a great combo.
This is an
exchange.
This is a terrible discussion.
I have a problem with some mocks because there are some mocks that are actually good.
You teach
there
Chattanooga?
Are some mocks that are actually out there where they're trying to predict and inform you and trying to tell you, hey, this is an actual guy that your team can take. Maybe look into him. There are some mocks, though, in particularly Maurice Jones-Drew's mocks, where it's just like
he has a mock.
Oh, he has multiple mocks.
That dude was a fantasy banger.
You are helping my discussion here. MJD has a mock.
I'm telling you right now, everybody's got a mock, and I look at all the mocks, every single mock. If there's a mock, I'm looking at it. All right, I'm a mock guy.
There are some front offices that do look at the mock drafts.
Oh yeah. There are some front offices that contact reporters who make mock drafts and are like, "Hey, really? You think this is going to happen? You think this is something? What's your intel?" Like there are front offices who take it seriously. But there are some mocks where it's just like clickbait.
Not mine.
They're just trying to make you mad. They're just trying to make you frustrated. And I can't stand that. I want clean mocks. I want mocks that are actually going to inform me. I don't need a mock telling me that Colston Loveland is going to get drafted by the Bears. Get the hell out of here.
Zach chimes back in.
I wish I cared about anything as much as he cares about.
I'm just saying, we got to keep mocks. We got to keep the integrity of mocks. All right, because some people,
too many mocks.
Some people don't have integrity anymore when it comes to them.
I believe the mock has been mocked.
Can we make a mock draft about our favorite mock drafts?
We're going to start mock drafting the mockers.
Oh, McShay won.
The guy from the big lead that is now on mock draft 18.0. Zach's email into the Equitable Bank inbox. LOL.
Indeed.
Oh, that was it?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's like saying, who are bigger dorks? Star Trek fans, Star Wars fans, or Lord of the Rings fans?
See, I don't like Lord of the Rings.
Zach sounds like a one-man party.
I've never seen that.
I wonder how many people party with Zach.
Zach sounds like the type of guy who's like, I don't wear another grown man's jersey. I don't put another grown man's last name on the back.
Zach sounds like the guy to me that would go to WrestleMania and watch WrestleMania on his phone while he's at WrestleMania.
Are there people who do that? Yeah. You know what? If you're in the nosebleeds, you probably have to do that.
It would surprise you. There are people that go to sporting events and have on their phone the game that they're actually at. Because there's going to be a delay.
Yeah.
So if you miss something, you look down at your phone.
Oh, yeah. I do
kind of like
that.
when you have the radio at the game, so you hear things that might be going on.
I love the people with the radio at the game. If I see someone that they got earbuds in or headphones in at a game, I immediately respect them way more. I'm like, that guy's dialed. That guy's
Walkman,
into it. That guy wants to hear
Unfortunately, in Nebraska, where that used to be a thing where you'd have the headphones that had the antenna sticking up, or people would bring their own radio and they would just turn it on.
Yeah, sure.
When the days of radio was the
1
only
o'clock,
thing,
no TV.
Yeah, they've gotten fewer because I also think the audience has gotten younger.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the people that would go to listen to the game, because back then it was even harder. You did not have the technology to have it on no delay where you could sync it up. Like KLIN, our partner down in Lincoln, they were the first to introduce, this is how we sync up our radio broadcast with the TV.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were in the stadium, there was still a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
But the audience is getting a little bit younger and people don't listen to the game in the stadium anymore. They're more likely to watch the game on their phone. But here's this is, you're way too young for this, but Jimmy will remember this and some of our other audience. Remember when they had the remote TV, the little box TV,
the AM/FM
and
band,
people would
TV
bring
band,
that to a stadium? Yeah, it was if you were bougie, it was color.
Yeah,
but you would have
there
this
weren't
like
many though.
You would have this like TV.
Yeah,
and it would have batteries, and you would watch the game.
Sure.
One of the first Dodger games I ever went to in Southern California at Dodger Stadium, Vin Scully used to do the first 3 innings simulcast on TV and radio.
Okay.
And fans would bring radios. They would not have headphones. They would just have the transistor radio, and they would turn it on, and nobody would complain because Vin was
so good.
Vin was giving you the first 3 innings on the radio. But yeah, those TVs. People would walk in with the little box TVs.
That's sick.
You'd be able to, and you had to do the knob, and you had to scan to get to like ABC. It only had like I think ABC, CBS, NBC, and maybe PBS. Yeah, but people would bring the little box TV to watch the game.
Now I'm thinking about it.
You would have thrived in that era?
I would have thrived in that area. I would have been so good back in the day with the little TVs, just hanging out with people.
You look good in an
I
Apex
imagine
jacket.
if you went to like the Fog Bowl games and you couldn't see anybody like out on the field.
Well, they couldn't see either.
Well, yeah, you go ahead, you look at the TV, that'd be incredible. I like the YouTube TV in the hand though, and doing the replays and breaking down. I've never thought of that
watch
before.
The next sporting event you go to.
I think I'm going to do that now.
Watching, I get watching other games, like at the NCAA basketball tournament. You're watching. Well, you're at a game. You're watching other games.
Sure,
but I have noticed people that will be watching the game that they're actually at, and so I saw a couple of screenshots of people that were at WrestleMania that had WrestleMania up and were watching it.
Well, if you're all the way up in the nosebleeds, how can you even see what is going on?
True.
I mean, there were some pictures last year. I think it was better this year because they were in a dome, or they were in a non-open air stadium, right? But like there were like 2 blimps, like you couldn't see them at all. So I imagine you would probably have to do that. Now, some people would say,
or how about seats on the stage, which they did this year?
Okay. That was cool. I was a fan of that. Now, when they were doing the cinematic, like whatever, and you just see a bunch of people waving, it kind of killed the mood at some points. But I'll say this. Some people say like, disconnect and connect or whatever, disconnect or unplug and talk to people or whatever. I'm telling you right now, if I'm at a sporting event and I want to see the replay, don't tell me to disconnect. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to look at my phone, and I'm going to really break this down while I'm watching it live. I like that. I've never done that before. Probably do that in the future.
Back to the NFL draft. So if I set the number at 2.5, Nebraska players drafted, under or over? We know one for sure, and I don't care if it's the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, or the 2nd or 3rd round.
I'll go over.
Be a day 2 guy in Ty Robinson.
I'll go over.
Okay. Fedoni and Robinson, I think, are locks.
Yes.
The wild card is Nair. And maybe, who knows, the mystery man, Tommy Hill. But for the draft again, this will be the 14th straight year that Nebraska has not had a first-round pick. Prince Amukamara is the last to go to the Giants in the first round in the 2011 draft. Imagine, well, nowadays people understand, okay? You could say that. You could say, hey, did you know that in 2010 and 2011, Nebraska had back-to-back first-round guys from Sioux, and they were both off of Bo's defense. And you'd be like, okay. And then as it gets further and further away, you go, oh, okay, things make sense.
Sure.
But how about this, young Matt?
Yes.
Try explaining this to someone that in 1984, Nebraska could have had, off of the 83 team, Nebraska could have had the top 3 picks in the NFL draft. This is, I don't know that this gets enough run. And granted, it's now 41 years ago. Nebraska in 1983 threw 192 passes.
Jeez.
In the 1984 NFL draft, A wide receiver off that team went number 1 overall.
That's crazy.
Irving Fryer.
Yes.
Dean Steinkühler went number 2. I imagine if Rozier was not going to the USFL, Rozier would have been 3rd because they didn't call it the supplemental draft. What did they call it? Maybe they did call it the supplemental draft. They also had one, and he was drafted in the first round. But if Rozier is not like, I'm going to the USFL,
Yeah.
I think Nebraska in 1984, the top 3 picks are all from the same school. But Irving Fryer, as a wide receiver on that team,
That's crazy.
going number 1 is wild to the Eagles.
I've told
Tell your grandkids that back in 1984, Nebraska had the 1st and 2nd overall pick.
that in itself
Great year in general.
is an absolutely incredible accomplishment. I think that if that were to have happened, if they got number 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back, that would have been by far the greatest draft accomplishment of all time. Has there been a time since where there have been 2 players from the same school go back to back
At the 1st and
picks,
2nd pick?
first and second picks? Not
think
recently,
so.
not in my time, not when I've been following the draft. So the fact that you even have 1 and 2, but 1, 2, and 3 would have been absolutely ridiculous. Hey, 1984, did the Giants have a running back? Jimmy, Rain Man?
I don't know. I was still
Okay.
crapping my pants that year. I have to
Carl
look that
Banks
up.
was the 3rd pick overall that year.
But
He was pretty good.
it's funny you talk about like them having back-to-back first-round picks in 2010 and 2011. Now it's been 14 years since they've had a first-round pick. And it's almost like one of those things where when you have a lack of success for a really long time, there are some certain markers that point out that, hey, it's been a tough time for this program. Obviously, the biggest marker being 8 straight seasons without a bowl appearance. But I think that this is another one where you have gone over a decade without having a top 32 player in college football, that you've gone over close to a decade and a half now without having a guy that people look around and say, hey, he's elite. He's a top dude. He's a superstar. It's one of those things where when you look at that and you realize that you can really think, and it really gets to your head that, man, it's been a while since this program has been at the top, since this program has been competitive.
Of talent and also winning. There's going to be guys that get drafted on Saturday in the NFL draft that they get drafted in the 6th or 7th round because they're on winning programs.
Yeah.
Where maybe it'd be better if they slipped to an undrafted free agent, but you have to win. I mean, NFL teams are attracted in first and foremost talent. If you can play, you can play. They'll find a spot for you, but also winning. So Nebraska had one guy in 17, one guy in 18, and then they broke the string of not having, they didn't have anybody drafted in 19. So 2-2-3-2 since then.
That's not enough.
And then last year's draft was a little bit better.
Now
but it has not been like, okay, so you want to go way back. Even in 2011, you had 7 guys drafted, but I'll go even further back to the glory days. You had a run of 95, you had 7, 96, you had 6, 97, you had 8, 98, you had 6, 99, you had 7, and then it slowed down for a bit. In 2000, you had 3, and then 2001, you had 7 again.
What was the most? Didn't LSU have about in 2019? They had 17 guys drafted.
Them in
18
Georgia
guys drafted.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing too, you talk about there are guys who are going to be drafted just because they're coming from winning programs. It's something that Matt Rhule has talked about in terms of, hey, we practice hard because some of you who are going to get drafted in day 3 are going to be on NFL rosters because of how you practice, because that it's important to practice. And so they bring NFL scouts in, and NFL scouts watch them practice and understand that, hey, Nebraska football players, they know how to practice. They know how to be physical. This is a dude who maybe if he's not a starter, someone that is going to help us get better in training camp because they practice. And that's one of those things where it's one of those small details that they've implemented in this program in terms of we're going to practice hard, not just because we're going to get better. We're also going to practice hard because it's attractive to scouts. And part of how they're trying to make this program attractive again is getting guys drafted. I mean, it's something that they've talked about a ton.
Oh, so I mentioned 84. I mean, twice in the last 6 years, you've had a program that didn't have anybody drafted. 19 and last year.
And a pretty historical program, too.
I mean, it's not good. It's not good. And I know that we're in the day and
Trey
age.
Palmer the year before in 23,
but he
should have been drafted earlier than the 6th round.
Oh yeah, he fell. I mean, he cascaded. And like, there's another thing too, though. Like, yes, we're in the era of NIL. Yes, we're in the era of where players are getting paid right now. But you cannot convince me that none of these guys who play college football don't have dreams and aspirations of going to the league, of being drafted, of going to the NFL. Still, despite the fact that all this money is being thrown around, programs that get guys drafted are going to get the top players, period, end of story. And when you make it an emphasis of your program, it is going to help you. And I like that they made it an emphasis, but the thing is now, they got to start getting guys drafted. They got to start having those results.
So kind of on the heels of that, and I like where you're going, is Connor was talking about this, about the Ferris State offensive lineman that committed to Iowa. So Iowa has a pipeline of offensive linemen that are going to the league. So if you're thinking and your aspiration is to go to the league, and maybe the money isn't as good as somewhere else,
sure,
but you want to get to the league, Nebraska needs to get, and this was a big thing with Scott, and Scott talked about this when he was the head coach here, because look at his last year at Central Florida. He loved being in the green room. He was fully husked being in the green room because he had dudes there.
Yeah.
Okay, he had first round guys, and that's what he wanted to do. And they never got to establish a position where that's what we're known for.
Sure.
Okay, the NFL walks into Lincoln and they're immediately going to walk over to the area that's got our running backs or it's got our offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So they haven't been able to establish a position where year after year after year, they're going to produce NFL guys, because year after year, it seems like that position group has a different coach.
Yeah.
So that's where they have to flip of, okay, you're coming to Nebraska. We're known for tight ends. Iowa's known for tight ends and offensive linemen. And
Ohio State's known for wide receivers.
You go to Georgia, you're known for defensive linemen and linebackers.
Yeah.
Nebraska doesn't have an identity when it comes to sending guys to the NFL. And then it also has this weird identity of guys going to the NFL that have better NFL careers than they ever had at Nebraska, where offensive linemen who didn't play well or consistently at Nebraska go to the NFL. And the next thing you know, you're looking at an 8, 9, 10-year career.
I wonder, though, if you're looking at this roster right now, what would your bet be as to, hey, what is the position that they can establish? And I don't really know what that position right now currently would be that I would put my money on.
Receiver. If you look at what they could make Dane Key into, and then young wide receivers, I think that would be the one where I would go, okay, that makes the most sense, that they could start churning wide receivers out of here.
One thing I push back on.
Big Ten schools are producing wide receivers.
Well,
that used to be the drawback of, you know what, you can't in a cold weather place. You're not going to produce wide receivers. You got to stick to linemen.
I would say more so, though, your argument would be with Cortez Mills and with Mosey and with Ja'Cory Barney, more so than, and maybe with Hunter too, more so than Key, just because Key was an established wide receiver.
But he would be
Kentucky.
But he's the older guy, so he would be in the next year's draft. Not the younger guys.
But I mean, like, in terms of, hey, Nebraska's known for this, and this is our pipeline, and this is what we're going to develop. Like, wide receiver, maybe I look at linebacker, with having Merritt and having McGahee and having Vincent Shavers, of maybe if those guys come on and end up having really impactful careers, that they could be guys who get drafted, and then maybe linebacker becomes a position or edge rusher becomes a position. But like, I'm looking at the roster now, I don't know if it just doesn't seem like they're trending right now in terms of hey, this is their established position.
I mean, ideally,
I think they need to get one.
Ideally, if you're going to flip it, it starts with the lineman, either O-line or D-line. Like if Nebraska, Nash is just kind of nobody is talking about him. So he might actually work into an undrafted free agent where it's better for him to pick his team with his agent. Ty's definitely going to get drafted. So there's at least one guy. Is there another guy after that? I mean, what do you think of Elijah Judy? You flip it when you're starting to produce NFL linemen. Look at Texas.
Sure.
Texas went forever, kind of like Nebraska, forever, without offensive linemen being drafted. They've now started to get more guys drafted off the offensive line, which during Mac Brown's heyday, they were producing all kinds of NFL starting offensive linemen that would come out of the 40 acres and would walk right into an NFL starting lineup. All right, Evan Bland coming up a little bit later. Jesse Rogers will join us to talk about the incredible Ellie Dela Cruz, who made an unreal play yesterday where you went, "Are you kidding me?" And then he hit a home run. And then the Reds just kept scoring.
And then he stole a base. And by the way, he did all that before the third inning was over.
Well, yeah. was a rough day for the O's.
Yeah,
Do you know
24 runs.
Do you know yesterday was the first time in history we had in Major League Baseball and the NBA a 20-run win.
Okay.
And a 20-point win, plus point win. Oh, by the way, there was also that 51-point beatdown in Oklahoma City.
What an embarrassment.
Memphis should just stop. If you get beat by 51, and trust me, if their starters weren't still going at it, they were going to beat by 75.
They'll stop in 3 games.
They should have just said, you know what? There's a rule in the NBA. You get beat by 50 plus in an NBA playoff game, you're done.
Have we already had 2 teams score 20 runs in one game this season in the MLB already? Reds yesterday, and then the Yankees could begin the year against Milwaukee. Has that happened before this quickly? 2 20-run games like that?
I don't think so.
That's crazy.
All right. So Jesse will stop by coming up at 9. Lots to discuss as Major League Baseball is a month in. Plus, we'll talk some college baseball this weekend. Great weekend for Creighton. Nebraska bounces back. Omaha loses 2 of 3 to Oral Roberts. All of that to come as we roll till 10 on Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone. Hey, we are less than a week from the storms that rolled through Omaha. And if you've seen some of the damage, you know it was not good. Hail took beating on some homes and some roofs. So you've got siding, gutters, and roof issues. And there's only one place to turn to get those fixed as soon as possible. And that is the MVPs of roofing in Omaha, Moose Roofing. Pat Moose and his entire crew. They are in it to win it for you, an Omaha roofing company. You know, now you're going to get some of these companies, they're going to roll into your neighborhood, and they were like, hey, Moose Roofing was here before the storm, during the storm, and they're off after the storm. They have fixed 15,000 plus roofs from Southwest Iowa all the way to Lincoln, siding and gutters as well. So if you wake up on this Monday, I'm like, I got to get that roof fixed. I got to take care of the siding that just got beat up by the hail. Moose Roofing is the place to go. They'll walk you through the entire process. They will start with their consultants who will come out and work with you, get to know you, your needs, and then they will look into your roof and everything else that ails you. They'll put a plan together. They'll work with your insurance company, which is not very easy at all. But Moose Roofing has an entire department that will take care of that. And then they will go to work for you to your satisfaction. For more information, go to the website right now, mooseroofing.com, for all of the questions you may have on storm damage, services, and much more, and to schedule an inspection. That website, mooseroofing.com. Hey, welcome to Easter Monday, where this will be the song today at the White House. They have the Easter roll
They pardoning a turkey?
on for Easter. It'd be wouldn't it be a ham?
What do you have for Easter? What do you eat
Ham.
for Easter?
Oh, I do. This was the staple. There are a couple of things.
Okay.
There are the strawberry pretzel salad.
Oh yes,
There are
hell
the
yes.
some people don't
Love
like
that.
call them deviled eggs, so they call them Jesus eggs.
Okay.
Wow.
And then ham.
Okay.
Ham. Shout out sodium.
Yeah.
I've never really had
Rest in peace, your pet pig.
I've never really had a food established with Easter before. I've never been like, oh, this is
Isn't
what we eat.
ham and deviled eggs.
The very Midwest, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's
Where I
just
grew up,
think
we
of
just turned the grill
breakfast.
on and it was just meat.
I think of brunch. Like I think of an Easter
Little
brunch.
mimosa?
Yeah.
Oh,
not
mimosa's
not
part of it.
not a little mimosa, a lot of
You're
mimosa.
firing off
I
text
mean-
at 12:45 in the afternoon. I see.
Remember what you said to me yesterday?
Uh,
No, I do not.
No.
But at the
Don't
White House
remember.
today, they will have the egg roll. not-
the egg roll?
They roll eggs.
Mhm.
They have the
Oh.
hunt, and then they roll eggs as well.
I thought
But
you were talking about the beautiful Chinese food that I just absolutely adore and love. Egg roll, by the way, my favorite by far Chinese dish of all time. I mean, you
Wow.
cannot beat a good egg
I
roll.
believe that's a hot take.
better than
Everything.
That's
Better than the crab rangoon.
yes.
Is Jimmy? You be the judge of this. Is that on the bordering on the line of all the bad food takes we all
No.
have here at 1620?
That is
It's-
a great
It's
food
less
take.
than ideal, but I'll give him that. An egg roll's good. I
Like
prefer
a-
the crab rangoon. Crab rangoon in 7 games, but you can't go wrong with an egg roll.
like a good beef egg roll with like that cabbage and a
ahead
little
of everything else.
ahead of everything.
Even the meal.
I mean, like, what is it ahead of? Lo mein, fine. Fried rice, okay. Orange chicken, meh. You know, like broccoli beef, okay. Like, I don't know. Like, give me an egg roll. Give me 3 egg
Just
rolls.
egg rolls.
Yes.
Just egg
And
rolls,
with
nothing
the,
else.
With the plum sauce too. You give me a little plum sauce, give me a little mustard sauce, and mix it up, maybe. Get a little of the sting with the nice sugariness of the plum sauce. Oh my God. Give me an egg roll every day.
I will put this up to the board at 1620 to see if this qualifies as a bad.
I think
food
it's
take.
I think it's a great food take, and I think that if you don't think it's a great food take, it's a bad food take.
Well, welcome
Ooh,
to 1620.
yeah, that's gonna be-
You have not heard some of the discussion on this radio station from the hosts about their food.
Yeah.
I love egg rolls.
Do not play with their food.
Mhm.
Story out of Lincoln as we are to the final week of
Yeah, Chinese
spring
food now.
activity
Thanks, man.
ahead of the Husker games. It starts at 2:00 in Memorial Stadium on Saturday. What's the weather?
65 and sunny. Nice breeze.
That's not bad.
Sunny skies.
Today?
That's not
or
No,
or-
today's going to be 76
the
and
day.
sunny.
Okay.
No, Saturday.
Gotcha.
So when you go line up with your friends for the garage sale, it'll be a little chilly, about 40 degrees.
All right.
Or hoodie.
I am
Tell you,
not going
they
at
wanna,
6 a.m.
They want to get people excited. Announce that stuff today.
Yes.
Equipment sale. Give me what's
He
available.
will change his tune
all
fast.
the limitations,
Oh, we'll break it
restrictions, all
down.
that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Now, if there isn't a quarter zip available,
Oh, yeah, it's what
Uh,
you want.
There is.
But there will be. There'll be
is
plenty.
there is so much like past gear
Mhm.
that was
I
not
can't wait.
handed out.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I don't know, man. Now that I'm
Frank
thinking about
Solich
it, maybe I
Adidas
will
quarter
get there
zip.
early. Maybe I will be one of
Yeah.
those guys who stays in
Mhm.
line at 5 o'clock in the morning.
First reported by On3, Marty Brown. Some of you will know him as Charmar. I can't. He's Marty Brown always to me from Creighton Prep, who redshirted at North Dakota State and then had a stellar year this past year in Fargo with the Bison, the national championship Bison.
Yes.
My buddy Sam, you know Sam, the radio voice.
I know Sam.
He got to go to the White House when they were at the White House last
Wow,
week.
Wow.
It's a big deal in North Dakota.
Wow.
Yeah, quite the experience.
I bet.
I mean, regardless of your affiliation, you're in the White House, man.
You have all you can drink
Yeah.
Dr. Peppers. I've seen the movie.
He said he did say that there were some people that were upset because the last time the Bison went, he was not there.
Yeah.
It was the fast food, where they just did all the fast food they
Oh.
put out for them.
Yeah.
This year they had like a nice, like
Nice.
sit down, don't steal the plates meal.
Nice
one of those.
charcuterie board.
I would have been
Um,
thankful for
maybe-
the fast food. I didn't pay for it.
Maybe some
I'd be like, "Thank you."
halibut Oscar.
Whoa.
I don't know what they had. I'll have to ask. He did have glowing things to say about Marty, who is a great individual. Him and his twin brother played at prep for Tim Young, but was the best freshman in FCS last year.
Yes.
Went into the portal. On3 first to report, he'll take a visit to Nebraska on Thursday. He will also visit Miami. Will there be a visit on the weekend? LSU is also a school that has kicked the tires pretty heavily. So that's something to look forward to this week.
We got Cajun food in Lincoln.
Don't let him leave.
With the
Don't let him go.
I think we do.
with the weekend of playoff activity, whether
Yeah.
it be if you were pucking or hooping.
Or if you were doing both.
You can do both.
It can be done.
I almost said, almost slipped there. What were you doing this weekend? Happy Easter to you. I miss Doc Emmerich, and there is no going back.
Yeah.
Because hockey has its place, and there might be times where more people tweet and say, playoff hockey. God, I mean, there is nothing like riding a motorcycle out of the back of a helicopter while you're snorting cocaine. Okay?
We all have.
For playoff hockey. I think sometimes there are more people that tweet.
Then
say,
watch it.
Playoff hockey, man. It's the best.
Yeah, I love that.
But if you watch, you understand why it's the best, that people sacrifice their bodies.
Yeah.
They sacrifice their country. I watched a game yesterday, which was so odd to only hear "O Canada" played because of the Battle of Ontario between Ottawa and Toronto. But I miss Doc Emmerich, and then I miss the fact that Doc Emmerich would draw you in, and he wouldn't let the BS that happened this weekend go on under his watch. They had a remote broadcast.
Yeah.
They had audio issues. And because of the godforsaken Sunday Night Baseball telecast, which is no longer special.
That's terrible.
They
Because it's leaving.
They bumped a really, really good Vegas, Minnesota game to ESPN2. It was not on the boob tube. It was not a good weekend for hockey. And not a good weekend whatsoever.
ESPN2 at 9 p.m. I mean, they were on the secondary channel on a Sunday at 9 o'clock, where a team who very well could win the Stanley Cup is playing their first game.
That was in my primary bed by
And they're
then
playing-
because the Astros were done.
Yeah, they're playing 9 o'clock on ESPN2. It's an absolute joke. Here's the thing with Doc Emmerich, too. The opens aren't the same. They really aren't. He was the greatest open guy ever. When they bring in the camera, it zooms in on the stadium, then they do the round shot. He sets the scene. You're like, oh my God, I haven't watched hockey all year long, but I can't wait to watch Calgary take on Minnesota because of it. Like that's what he did. I don't get that anymore. I don't get that.
Vegas, Minnesota is going to be a really good series.
It's gonna, yeah, we'll see. I think St. Louis,
nice and physical.
I think St. Louis and Winnipeg. If you were watching that game, that first game, that's where you're
Great
like, oh my God,
organization.
playoff hockey with the Blues just throwing bodies.
All home teams won this weekend. Washington gets going.
No,
today.
Colorado won. Are you talking about hockey?
All home winners.
No, Colorado was on the road. They beat Dallas.
Wasn't Colorado at home?
No, they beat Dallas on the road. They were favored on the road.
Everybody except for Colorado who went and won on the road.
By the way, cha-ching.
Death taxes in Dallas losing a game one of a series.
Yeah, that's why you bet it.
But there is we in this world have a tendency to take out our angst on officials. So last night in the game, because I stayed up to watch, I mean, Vegas, Minnesota again, I think it's going to be a really good series.
Sure.
You had a linesman that went down, was not good. I mean, he got clipped last night. Makes me appreciate, and I know this won't, I got friends who hate hockey officials, but whatever.
Okay.
Can we just put into context what it's like to officiate hockey, where at the NHL level, as fast as things are going,
mind-blowing to watch.
you have to make calls while you're also avoiding getting hit.
Well, you're also skating too.
Yeah, I mean that makes it even doubly. Now, some linesmen, some referees are not very good, but just think. I mean, in basketball, you're not running up down the floor wondering if they're going to throw the basketball at you or some guy's going to run you over. I mean, in hockey, you gotta have your head on a swivel, but you also got to go up.
You're not concerned a 6'8" Russian is going to run right into you and put his shoulder right into your head, bounce you off the boards, and then you're eating from a straw for 2 weeks when you're refereeing NBA.
What do you guys think Steve Spurrier got for his birthday yesterday? The old ball coach turned 80.
Probably a ham. It was Easter.
A
For
nice
his birthday?
For his birthday.
A nice
Here's a ham.
bucket
Gave him a
of
ham?
Florida
Here you go.
citrus.
Happy birthday, Steve. Here you go.
You give
Food.
you give the ball coach
A birthday
ham?
ham. Birthday ham. Don't
Hey,
drop
just
the
give me a
football.
ham. I don't need ham.
Fumble the fork. You can't fumble the football. Or if you can't hold on to
at
the fork,
80
can't hold
years
on to the
old, you
football.
would give somebody a
What
ham?
what would you give somebody who's 80 years old for a birthday gift?
Steve
They got-
Spurrier-
He's a big golfer.
Anything golf related.
He's a big
A
golfer.
polo.
I would give him more of an opportunity to be on national platforms.
Okay.
Because I listen
No
to
kidding.
Theo Vaughn, who has got his podcast. It's got a wide variety of guests that are on that show.
It's a
It's a hodgepodge.
It is a riot, that podcast.
How is Theo's stand-up?
I haven't heard his stand-up, and that's kind of the point, I think. I think that is like he is made to be. I can't imagine him having like a rehearsed, written out stand-up routine. Like he is an off-the-cuff guy. Like that is where he's the best during these conversations, where he can just go, "Oh yeah, I had a cousin once who got struck by lightning when he was wearing a tinfoil hat." Like that's just what he does. Like I don't think he can
Michael
plan
McKean of him.
any of that stuff out. Now, like Bert Kreischer, that's a guy where he's got to write like his material. Like I don't know how he's not my favorite off the cuff guy.
Bert Kreischer would be ideal for the postseason. I'll explain after 8. He'd be the best guy for postseason sports.
In what way?
That's a tease. I'll tell you after 8. But back to Theo.
Stay with us.
Okay.
If you've ever seen his podcast, again, he has a wide variety of politicians, celebrities. Lane Kiffin was on.
Yes.
And it's a really, really good sit down because it's not just Lane Kiffin off the cuff. Like Lane Kiffin goes deep about from Tennessee to USC to being with, Saban, and, Lane has been sober for a while. Like he goes.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
He goes
I
into
saw
depth.
that.
It was really, really good. Now, the one that has gone viral is his little jab at Miami for paying Carson Beck $4.3 million. But as I'm listening to Kiffin, and I think Kiffin is great for the sport, and he is today's modern age Steve Spurrier, where you just say everything out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're like, I can't believe he said that.
You don't worry. It's also on this podcast is where it was first revealed that there is an SEC coaches chat on text, and how Kiffin goes in there and he messes with Kirby Smart and some other coaches. But does anybody, because we all laugh at this, and hey, we've all been doing the same thing at Miami. You paid Carson Beck $4.3 million.
It's a joke.
Does anybody ever push back on Kiffin? Like Kiffin jabs everybody, but does anybody ever go after Kiffin? Because if you think about,
they all act like, that's just lame.
So Kiffin has not made the playoff since he has been at Ole Miss. Now, the last 2 years, he's finished in the top 15. And you could say probably to where they were at the course of the season, they did beat Georgia this past year, but they were not in the playoff.
And lose to Kentucky.
I mean, he has turned Ole Miss football around, and he has gone 11 wins and 10 wins the last 2 years. But it's not like he's been in the playoff, and he's not like he's won championships. But nobody ever pushes back and goes, Kiffin, what have you done?
Isn't that okay? So Jimmy,
because they didn't do that against Spurrier either when he was rolling, but he also had a national title.
But Spurrier would also get the last laugh if he tried to go at him.
See, that's kind of what Kiffin is.
Well, I don't know. I don't think so, because I want to go off of what Jimmy just said a minute ago. Jimmy goes, "Oh, it's just Lane, right? No, it's just Lane." Isn't that a bad thing? Like, isn't that kind of a negative thing? Like, don't you want, if you're Lane Kiffin, don't you want your words to matter a little bit more?
They're just
don't
not letting
want
them get
people to get offended by the fact that you think that way? Because if Saban said that, it would be like, oh my God, like that, like Miami fans would be pissed. Miami fans would be, but at the same time, Miami fans would then turn it into, why are we paying Carson Beck all this money? Saban is right. So, I mean, his opinion matters. If you're Lane Kiffin, I would be offended. I would be offended that I can talk crap.
Oh, I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares.
I don't know.
But nobody,
it would irk me a little bit that
Mario
I can say
Cristobal,
whatever I want.
Mario Cristobal doesn't get on a podcast and take a swipe at Kiffin. It's very rare. And Kiffin must be, and you look at what he did when his father passed away and the amount of time that he spent back in Lexington.
Yeah.
I think Lane, for all of Lane's up and downs in his football career, I think being the son of Monty, I think there's a lot of respect for Lane, where he says things. It's like Spurrier. Spurrier would say things out loud that you never would, but you thought.
Sure.
And Kiffin does that. So I would love to see his text messages of coaches that go, "Oh man, you're right on, Lane. Hey, keep getting after him, Lane. Hey, can't wait to see you in Destin during the offseason. Go get him.
I was about to say, they followed that up with, did you make your Cancun reservation yet? But
hey, nobody
Sandestin Hilton.
But I don't expect Cristobal today, or Miami's done with their spring. So, I don't think Cristobal is going to hop on the Joe Zagacki podcast and take a crack at Kiffin. People just don't. But people didn't do it against Spurrier until Spurrier was down when he was in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then people came out of the woodwork, just like Urban Meyer.
But that was
people were like, "Oh man, not touching Urban." But then Urban had a downtime at Jacksonville. People came out of the woodwork and stepped on him. Lane is in a good spot right now. He's got 3 of the last 4 years, 10-win seasons. He's kind of the character and the voice of college football that I wish we had somebody like that in the Big Ten Conference.
Wouldn't you say that Matt Rule kind of is that way? Because Matt Rule now he hasn't made a comment about a player like that, right? He hasn't made like did you see what Aiden Childs did against us? Like he hasn't made something like that. But he is the guy out of the coaches in the Big Ten who made those comments.
The difference is Kiffin has won. So Kiffin can say that and we laugh. Rule says that and we go, man, buddy, you're a 500 coach.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Like
because there aren't as many outspoken coaches in the Big Ten. Like the Big Ten's identity is the campuses they look like a Big Ten campus and we're stodgy. Like when a Fleck comes along, we're like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't be different.
Yeah. We're traditionalists. It's like there's a way to coach. There's a way to act. There's a way to be.
Lincoln Riley, using your word, and that's a great word. Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma to USC has become more of a traditionalist.
Yeah.
Okay. Now he's not winning as much, so he doesn't have the swag. And when you're winning, your mouth can start to run, and then you just hope that you can cash those checks.
Sure.
Kiffin can do that, and we just kind of laugh.
Can Kiffin? Can he? Because
no one's standing up to him.
You talk about Urban and you talk about Spurrier. I don't think people stood up to them because of fear. Because they're like, these guys are winners. These guys are going to kill us. I mean, these are two of the. Which it's exactly what they did with Kiffin. It's almost as if we don't respond back because it's like,
you can't spell citrus without UT, and he beat them.
We'll beat you in Oxford. We'll beat you in Athens.
How many other coaches have the swag that Kiffin has established?
Not a ton, and he wins. And I'm not saying Lane Kiffin is a loser, and Lane Kiffin can't say those things.
How many coaches have the personality and the free reign to kind of just say whatever is on their mind?
But is Lane at the big boy table? Like, is he at the big boy table? Really?
What is the big boy table?
Dabo Swinney.
Okay, you're just talking the guys that just won championships.
Like high level elite. I think the big boy table is like 4 or 5 coaches. I don't think the big boy table has
Ryan
that many.
Day, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, I think that if he was at that table, that there would be more people maybe being offended, or maybe more people like taking those words and being like, oh my God, that matters. Oh my God, can you believe what he said? This comment about Carson Beck kind of was just like, oh ha. Ha. But you can't clown.
He was saying, I think, what everybody in college football thinks.
I agree. But I think also too, though, with Lane, like you can't, I mean, he's won. Ole Miss is competitive. Ole Miss is ranked. So you can't clown him and be like, oh, his words don't matter. But at the same time, it's like, if I were him, I would be a little bit upset that people like aren't more offended by what I've said. But at the same time, it's like when you go back to the Big Ten and you go back to the traditionalist, like, you could say up until last year that maybe that was a barrier of like, oh, we have to play Big Ten football and you have to build it this way. And this is what we do. Where the SEC, you don't really hear that. You don't hear that in the SEC. Like, oh, this is how you play SEC football. SEC football is just, hey, we're going to get the best athletes and we're going to go and score a lot of points and we're going to play the best football possible.
I'll tell you who the guy that at the Big Ten might be closest if they have another winning season and if they're in the playoff again, watch out, is Kirk Cignetti. Cignetti is not afraid to say whatever.
But I think,
and if they win again, if Indiana finds a way to get back to the playoff in 2 straight years, and you've got him,
he'll let you know.
And he's not afraid to say what's on his mind. That would be the closest thing to Kiffin in this league.
But it would be a way more negative connotation toward Cignetti than it would be toward Kiffin.
Oh yeah, because Kiffin doesn't have Cignetti doesn't have his dog on social media. He doesn't have his daughter that he's hanging out with on social media.
He doesn't seem like a guy that you could grab a beer with. You know, I could see myself playing 18 holes with Lane Kiffin, you know, which maybe you could argue maybe that's a bit of a problem, you know, like maybe when you look at these coaches, like some of the best coaches don't seem like the most personable dudes ever.
If Bo would have won games that mattered, Bo would have been the earlier Lane Kiffin in the Big Ten, Big 12 to Big 10.
I'll take that. I mean, yeah, I'll take your word for that.
But Bo was probably closer to a Cignetti personality than a Lane Kiffin, where Lane Kiffin is an enjoyable listen.
Kiffin.
Pelini can be kind of a tough listen, but him and Cignetti both were kind of in the same stock of what they would say.
does the Big Ten even really have a coach outside of just like being outspoken or whatever? Does the Big Ten even have a coach?
Bert's got
like
a little bit
Kiffin,
of that
where
FU
it
in him,
is kind of like
Bielema is close.
Yeah.
Especially in that bowl game.
I think people brush off Fleck.
Because he's kind of
you can't
weird.
brush off his program because
No.
he's found a way to win, but they think he's hokey.
He is a little hokey.
So when he would say this, you'd be like, dude, take off the tie on the sidelines, okay?
But don't you think if Fleck was at a bigger program and was winning and had the resources and was winning more consistently and was going to Big Ten championship games, he could be more outspoken and he could be more like a Kiffin?
I don't think Fleck will ever be at a big time program.
Why is that?
Because you got to remember, what big time program is going to turn their entire football program over to PJ Fleck?
Mm-hmm.
That's why Deion Sanders will never be at a big time program, because you turn your entire program
into that coach.
over to that coach and that brand.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine oars on Nebraska's helmet?
And not Johnny.
You wouldn't need to implode the stadium. Fans would tear it down.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point.
But you also have
right.
those two coaches who are good at, doing what they do. They can't go to an established program. They got to go to a program that's at the bottom.
They need jump starts and energy.
That needs
that is willing to sell their soul, essentially, if for wins. That's willing to give up all the power you could possibly have, because you know what? We just need to get people butts in seats. That's a good point.
I mean, look at Fleck was possibly going to go from Minnesota to UCLA. I mean,
same concept.
UCLA is a poverty program in the Big Ten.
And who's willing to give up all that control in order to just be relevant?
I don't know, man. They got too much of a power academic chair that I think still has the idea of we should play Ivy League football. That's a tough place.
Well, now
have fun, Nico.
Yeah, I was about to say, have a good time, bud.
He will.
A little bit later, Evan Bland stops by. Jesse Rogers from ESPN on Major League Baseball on this Boston Marathon Day, 129th running of the Boston Marathon. How many Dunkin' Donuts will they run by?
32.
14.
I think every mile.
Wicked winners.
There's got to be a Dunkin' every mile in Boston, right?
Close. I mapped out Paul Revere's because it's the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War when Paul Revere, he would have gone by 7 Dunkin' Donuts.
None of the Starbucks crap.
Look it up. We're back with more Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, Underdog just became one of the best places to make picks during the NBA playoffs. That is way too cheery. With their extender promo, with the extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boost each round of the playoffs. Hey, I got a brand to protect here. Can't have me being too cheerful. Anyway, Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Will I be next? Rough weekend, but we'll bounce back because it's playoff time. To play, all you have to do is download the app. Already done. Choose whether a player will go higher or lower on what are their stats. You can choose from things like points, assists, and so much more. Even the stuff they mess up. Turnovers, make fun of them when they make mistakes. Anyway, once your picks feel good, or at least adequate, you can play with as little as $1. If you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. That's a lot more. This week on Underdog, I am all in on the NBA playoffs. We got lots of games, multiple every night. We need to start winning some, and no better time to do it than tonight. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. There's a lot of them. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/x9.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, there is a anniversary today of something that we discussed in one of the first couple of weeks you were on the show.
Okay.
Ooh, I'll go back to my written transcripts.
39 years ago today.
April 21st, 1986. I'm going to guess that's the day Michael Jordan scored 63 in the Garden.
That actually was yesterday.
Oh,
but, holy
wow.
crap.
What happened on the 21st? I don't know.
We discussed it on the show because it had a Chicago connection. 39 years ago today.
The Chicago Buzz were disbanded.
Good one, though.
I
like that.
If I'm being
Yeah,
honest with you,
nice.
it's probably around, I think it was 86 around this time they were done. What is it?
Yeah, you have to. That would have been a Monday then if that was the
They
case.
decided to
I
put
don't remember.
Jardinere on a beef for the first time ever.
I wet the bed.
Geraldo Rivera opened Al Capone's long-lost vault on live, nationally syndicated primetime special 39 years ago tonight.
You stayed up and were disappointed.
And it was the biggest fire fest of your entire life.
You're all pumped up on a Monday night.
Let me be honest with you. I did not know that was, I'm sure it was told to me. I didn't really know that was a whole big thing, that like he had a vault and it was like, holy crap, we're opening it.
Times
Like,
were simpler.
What did you expect to be in there? A bunch of Uzis and alcohol? Like what was your expectation of Al Capone's vault?
Like all kinds of like memorabilia. They opened it up.
Record collection.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Like some skeletons. Mm-hmm. Like of some bodies that were put in there.
You
nothing.
Wanted body packs in
nothing.
There? Be a smelly vault.
Stay tuned for your late local news, followed by The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
It was such a letdown. Geraldo Rivera, 39 years ago tonight, blue balled us.
You got to make sure that you use lime for the bodies. It takes away the smell.
Wow.
On that note, let me think about that.
We don't have any embalming fluid here, do we?
That's what they said in Goodfellas.
Hey, read the room. Read the room. Today's not the day to be talking about this.
What? We talk about it every day, every show. There's a
you two over there.
Hey, you're roped into this. It's Gary and Matt, baby. It's Gary and Matt.
You guys,
your name's attached to it. This is our show.
You guys like to talk about death.
This is our show.
I just played a song called "Doing It to Death."
That is not me. You guys do mess with the karma all you want. No, that's not me.
They often ask, "What's your motif?" There it is.
That's not mine. Okay. Have fun. Have fun. I'll be
so
back.
So Geraldo, 39 years ago.
I will be back. I don't know what's going to happen to both of you guys because I see some storm clouds moving in. We will talk to Evan Bland coming up in the next hour on 1620 The Zone. All right, so I told you last hour you brought up Bert Kreischer,
Yes.
who takes off his shirt.
And does
Wouldn't
the
he-
same comedy routine every single show.
I've never seen him in person.
He
Yay or nay?
like
I enjoyed his stand-up.
yay.
I'd
Yay,
go.
yay, you should go.
Mhm.
Like it was good. I laughed, I had a good time, but definitely not on the upper echelon of
Okay.
comics I've seen.
He would be ideal, though, this time of the year for playoff basketball
In
and playoff hockey.
in what way? As you can tell, I'm not the biggest Bert Kreischer fan.
I would never have picked that from
Yeah.
your mood towards him.
Yeah, no.
Because this is the time of the year where we have the playoff T-shirt.
He likes his comics clothed.
Well, okay.
I like
so
them.
this is. I got a question here. A lot of places have the playoff T-shirt, right?
Mhm.
So
Gotta
you
put it
go
on.
in, you gotta right there at your seat.
Do you have
You,
to?
you,
They'll shame you.
you got to wear it, or they will shame you. But what happens if you do this? Because now the playoff T-shirt is not for everybody. Some people are fat.
Some
I-
people are smaller. There's always
Don't
an
point
XL.
it- don't point at yourself.
You sit down and I grab the medium shirt and I'm supposed to wear it. No one
It's-
wants to
it
see
starts
that.
ripping.
Now, I think there are some people that are knuckleheads and they just want to make a statement, so they're not going to wear the shirt. It's like the Seinfeld AIDS ribbon episode.
Excellent recall.
You
What?
got to
What?
wear the ribbon. You got to wear the ribbon.
Why do I gotta wear the ribbon, Jerry?
So
Why
you-
do I gotta wear it?
So some people are like, I'm not wearing that. I'm going to make a statement. But you do get shamed and they put you on camera.
I'm not.
So, but here's the thing.
I like a towel. What happened to the towels? Why can't we
Um,
just give out towels? Why does it have to be a
Towels were
shirt?
cool.
Hey, Oklahoma City is fun on the floor and in the stands. They give away thunder sticks. Those things beaten when you're getting beat by 51 and you got Jaws on the sideline smiling.
Mhm.
But
Reminds
this
me
is-
of the O2 World Series.
Kreischer would be the ideal playoff hockey and basketball fan.
Because he just takes off his shirt like an idiot and starts whipping it around.
No. What if, like, you're going to a game and you know they're going to give you a playoff shirt?
Okay.
Could they deny you entrance if you were shirtless
Oh,
at the
shit.
ticket gate? Okay? Because you're going to go in there and they're going to give you a shirt and put it on. No one wants to see the exec that's sitting courtside that just came from his 9-to-5 Wall Street job that has a nice dress shirt and you put
Then
a
on the t-shirt over.
playoff shirt over it. I'm thinking the best way to do the playoff shirt is you invite males to come shirtless. So they come in and then they've got the shirt that they can put on. And then you know that there's going to be a lot of compliance of people wearing the playoff shirt.
Hey.
Know it.
Hey.
Love it.
No one wants
Live
to
it.
see that. All right. I don't want
You
to.
must wear the ribbon.
I don't want to see a bunch of grown men half naked walking into the Chesapeake Bay Arena.
It
okay?
gets warm in Oklahoma this time
I'm not,
of the year.
I'm
San
not
Antonio.
signing up
yeah.
to see a bunch of slightly overweight men with some love handles walk in with no shirt on.
Sounds
Also,
like the
too,
bleachers at
if a man
Wrigley.
walks into an arena and he doesn't have a shirt on, what makes you think when he gets to his seat he's going to put that shirt on?
Air conditioning.
I would
chilly.
assume that he would just continue to be shirtless regardless of.
No, I think he's very smart. Why would I go there and already have a shirt on?
You just
And
sweat.
then I'm just going to get another shirt and I'm required to put that shirt on.
Mhm.
And then I got to change out. So just go with no shirt.
Yeah.
You get the playoff shirt.
Mhm.
That's what you wear home.
Can I be honest with you? In order to really have an
That's a great
opinion
idea.
on this,
You
I
don't wanna
feel
sweat
like
in
you
your
have
nice
to have a
clothes.
team that makes the playoffs so you can make the decision.
Hey.
Generally, that's
Hey.
what happens.
That's
I-
on you.
I don't.
That's
I
on
don't.
you.
I don't walk in. The last time I walked into a playoff game, it was in Milwaukee. So the shirt was there and I didn't wear it.
I will walk into a playoff
It
game
was a
next
sick
year.
shirt though. It was a Fear the Deer
We will
shirt.
be back.
Too bad I never wear it. Just gave it away.
Went to a handful of Miami Heat games and
Got wear a
they-
white shirt?
all white out. But you know,
Those are sick.
I never sat in the lower bowl. And I'm like, are they really going to see me up here? I did not wear the shirt just because it was a little bit smaller.
Constricting.
What
Yes.
size is the? Are they all
Most
larges?
of them are large. They've gone extra large, but
Depends
not,
on the city.
not all extra large are created the same.
My city was
No,
extra
no, no,
large.
I mean, by the way, can we have an epidemic, okay? With the fact
Here we go.
that
diabetes.
the fact
A
that
lot
no,
of things going on in this country.
No,
this should
no,
be
no.
good.
it is crazy how from store to store, I don't know what a medium is, or I don't know what a large is. It is crazy that it's a medium, but like I hate the whole, well, it runs small or it runs big. Like, how about we just all run the same? Okay. It is wild to me that no matter where I go, I have to go to a dressing room and put on the shirt because I don't know if it's really a medium. I don't know if it's really a large. Can the fabric parts of America get it together?
It depends on where you go. Like you're probably an Old Navy Kohl's shopper. There are
okay, that was such a random guess. That was like a slight insult a little bit, but I 1,000,000% am. I love the Old Navy. The Old Navy.
How was that an insult?
Yeah.
I don't know. You kind of said it a little. You kind of hurled.
I didn't take it that way.
Okay. Well,
you want me to say you went to Montgomery Ward?
Yeah.
You're a Sears guy?
I would like you to say that I go to Lord and Taylor. I love the Old Navy.
Old Navy has a tendency to go a little bit smaller. Costco a little bit bigger. Costco clothes.
So hot
do
dogs.
not discount the Costco clothes. I got a few nice
Costco clothes.
Oh, my winter jacket was from Costco.
Hey, the Target $10 shirt aisle. Well, now it's actually it's actually the
Target
$13.
Target,
it's the $13 shirt
Target,
aisle now.
You got to go a size up. I've learned that. Size up at Target.
Here's my problem.
And even with pants,
what
like you're 34, 30, and you're thinking, oh, you better go that 36.
What you've just laid out is the problem. You've just described the problem. Old Navy's a little bit too small. Target's a little bit too big.
But you get Old Navy cash just for going.
I don't like shopping because I know that I'm going to waste time. Not only just get it, like I'm very picky already to begin with, and then I got to go and try them on.
Well,
and then if I try it on and it doesn't fit right, then I have to go and find another thing that I like and then try that on.
Hey,
it's exhausting.
Just wait. All the stuff will be made in this country, and then we'll all be the same. We'll have standards.
We should have standards.
I think it's where it's made.
We need to have standards. It's just ridiculous that it's just a medium.
You got a platform to run on now,
or a large isn't a large.
Mm-hmm. That should be on the podcast today.
Hey, in this state, what is the closest thing to the Beatles?
What is the closest thing to the Beatles?
In this state. In this fine state, this lovely state of Nebraska.
We're just talking music.
1.9 million. No.
Okay, I was going to say, 311.
The closest thing.
The Nebraska volleyball team.
Boom. So Merritt Beeson, Atlanta played the Supernovas on Saturday night. The line for Merritt Beeson's autograph was not as long as the Paul Skeens line for the bobblehead, but it was lengthy. If you play volleyball at Nebraska, in the eyes of fans and young kids, you are a rock star. Looking at the reaction, and good on Merritt, who is going to coach high school volleyball, by the way, in the fall.
Yep.
She stood and signed autographs.
Wow.
And, the reaction towards the Nebraska volleyball players and even the Creighton volleyball players that are in that league that are on the Supernovas. But Merritt Beeson, won because she, played a prominent position. But the reaction of people post-Nebraska career, you play at Nebraska. That's why I keep bringing up the Lexi Rodriguez. Lexi Rodriguez played in the city of Omaha, just won the Sullivan Award, and you would have never known it. But she is in the list of the most popular volleyball players ever to play at Nebraska. But good on them because they are popular and they sign autographs and they give back and they realize how important their fans are to them.
Yes.
I saw video, and then a friend of mine was at the Supernova game and he took his daughter, and so they were one of the people that stood in the line. I'm like, man, they get it. Nebraska volleyball players get it. I also heard.
That's a great point.
We might have a big announcement with volleyball in this city.
Oh.
We have some world championship that's being pursued by Mecca or the Sports Commission.
A third team?
No, not a third team, but like a world championship that might be coming to Omaha.
That'd be incredible. So you go, before you brought up the Lexi thing, you're like, oh man, if you're a Nebraska volleyball player, I mean, you're so popular and you're playing in Omaha. Oh my God. If you're playing at the Chai, because Lexi Rodriguez, it's like people forgot that she was around here, that like it's still absolutely ridiculous to me how accomplished she is and how popular she is and how she carries herself. And yet she wasn't plastered all over the place from love as not as the player for Omaha. I still don't understand that. But you go back to Nebraska volleyball players getting it, signing autographs, being gracious. Like that's how you grow a sport. I feel like the WNBA has kind of failed in that regard because they just, when you're trying to grow something, you don't want to, you got to toe the line between being like, hey, we deserve this and being outspoken, right? Mm-hmm. There's a difference between standing up for yourself and, offending people or coming off as negative or coming off as bitter or anything like that. The fact that I feel like volleyball in general, and I know that professional volleyball, the future is real murky right now because of all the different leagues and you don't know where people are going to go. But just from a Nebraska volleyball perspective, they've done a great job of being gracious and doing those autographs and just representing not only themselves correctly and the school correctly, but the sport itself gets represented really well.
John writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. He said Nebraska football is the Beatles of Nebraska.
No, not even close.
Both
the
are-
Beatles are loved.
Both are very, very overrated by fans.
The Beatles are a little overrated.
A lot of takes today.
They're a little, like, I like them. They're a little overrated. But they're not a bad. Some people are like, the Beatles are bad. Like, that's like a popular thing on Twitter. Like, a popular hot take to have is that the Beatles aren't good. I see that a lot. Beatles are still good.
Well, they're not touring right now.
No, I know.
They're not doing a Kendrick Lamar.
I mean, they're not
opening for
stadium tour.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Hey, Kendrick Lamar. He's doing football stadium tours. Him and SZA were up at U.S. Bank.
He's not
They did
like us.
52 songs.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, he did 52 songs.
That's like
It's getting your money's worth.
3 hours.
Yeah.
But
That
to
is
have-
insane.
to have both of them on a tour and they're playing football stadiums. But back to the Beatles. So
It's a popular take, like amongst the
Beatles are
Twitter.
not-
Yeah, there's a lot
What
of
if they
people out
opened
there.
for Kendrick?
of course, Twitter is the pulse of
Like-
what is real out
like
there.
millennials,
Yeah.
millennials, and like people my age are like, man, the Beatles aren't that good, which I push back against. I think the Beatles are pretty good, but the whole
Because they
like
didn't do enough.
I don't know. I just don't think that people
They
nowadays
didn't
like
sound in tune when they were on the Ed Sullivan
they
show.
don't like the Yellow Submarine. They don't like the happy go lucky go hippie thing.
Well, it's not like they're going to be putting out new music. Are they going to be putting out an LP anytime soon?
Yeah, they're not the Stones.
No, you think Oasis breaks up
Oh,
on
here we
that
go again.
world tour in 2 weeks? What's the over under for how long it takes for Oasis to break up?
What was that like? That was a discussion about 6-7 months ago.
Yeah,
They get a lot of run.
We had a.
you're not an Oasis guy.
Oh, I am an
No, we
Oasis
are.
guy. It was a very interesting conversation we once had on the show about the Oasis tour.
Fair enough.
All right, when we come back, we'll have an interesting discussion about Matt Campbell's tour of the state of Nebraska, as the Nebraska clones are up to 6. But Marty Brown will not be one of them. The former Creighton Prep running
Well, you
back
hope.
from North Dakota State. If Nebraska loses a Creighton Prep running back who ran for well over 1,000 yards at North Dakota State,
Is there Houston? Do we have a problem?
Yeah, his name's Steph Curry.
I would just plan on one event in Memorial Stadium in the fall, and that's when Nebraska volleyball plays there.
Jeez.
But Matt Campbell doing work in Nebraska, or is he? We'll get into that when we come back. Evan Bland to join us this hour as well on 1620 The Zone.
Sing it.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes, Sharpie.
You being the dog owner on the show.
Yep.
Do you feel like after you get done eating, you have to show your dog your hands like a blackjack dealer?
Sometimes, and that still doesn't do it for her. She's still interested in what we have to eat.
Just checking.
Mm-hmm.
That is funny. My dog has been trained to no longer like food, like no longer like eat food at the table anymore.
My
like
doctor
that.
wishes I would be.
Man, it took forever. Like this dog was 4 years old, and we were still at the point where you could not leave food out. It doesn't matter where it was. This dog would climb chairs. I once saw him jump from the couch to a chair, landed on a platform, got up on a table to have a steak. It was one of the most athletic things I've ever seen.
I used to do that for Girl Scout cookies.
I don't understand how we did it. And frankly, I came home one day and apparently he was trained not to do it anymore. So I think Mom took out the chancla and started treating him like she treated me.
Whoa.
When I was a little baby boy. But when dogs want food, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
You haven't seen me when I get hangry.
Okay.
I like it when I'm hangry. I'm funnier when I'm hangry.
Shout out Ed Service, won his 700th game over the weekend.
Oh, yes.
Creighton
All right,
baseball
Ed.
coach in his last year before he retires. Impressive sweep for Creighton. They swept St. John's. So they've swept St. John's. They won 2 of 3 against Connecticut. Xavier is atop the Big East. Well, there's like a 4-way tie. Whoever gets hot in Mason, Ohio. Creighton's RPI today, 67th. Nebraska's RPI with a Creighton and Nebraska game still to go, 75th. All right.
Did he jump up?
Big weekend. Big, huge series in college baseball this weekend. Texas and Texas A&M in College Station.
Ooh, a bluebell.
Jim Schlossnagel returns to College Station with the number 1 team in the country. Evan Bland, we'll talk a little bit more baseball after Nebraska won 2 of 3 over the weekend. Lost on Friday. That stings, but swept the doubleheader against Northwestern on Saturday. By the way, history was made at Haymarket Park.
How so?
I believe that the only guy in the history of Memorial Stadium and Haymarket Park to start at quarterback and also be in the starting lineup of a baseball. What's his name? Jack? Pausch?
Oh.
There's a guy that started for Northwestern, a quarterback here.
At quarterback? Here?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was not Steve
Lausch.
Lausch.
Jack Lausch.
Jack Lausch.
Jack Lausch.
Jack Lausch. Jack Lausch.
He
plays
came in.
baseball.
He started, and then Holinsky came in for him, and then they put Lausch back out there.
History was made at Haymarket Park this weekend. But shout out to Ed, 700 wins.
Absolutely incredible.
Okay, so while we were away, Jet Tomala, the star-studded quarterback at Millard South, who had 47 touchdown passes this year, is going to join his teammate Amarian Jackson over in Ames next year. There are 6 commitments from Nebraska, the state of Nebraska, to Iowa State.
Oh,
love me some Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell is a very smart man. He's also very successful. You can sell, speaking of the draft.
Yeah.
Iowa State is churning out NFL dudes.
They are.
So with Nebraska limited at 105 and the top-end guys in the class of 26 not being as deep as it's been in the past, and Nebraska being more selective, which I appreciate. It should be a special deal if you're an in-state kid to get a Nebraska offer. You don't just start offering all over the place.
Yeah.
Iowa State has been smart, and they have secured some really good talent, from here. But before people start losing their mind and making a big deal about comments that were made about Rule and in-state recruiting, how many of those were Nebraska and Iowa State went head-to-head?
Not a lot. I don't know the
So
specific
Isaac
number.
Jensen is the only one, and he's not going to visit Nebraska. So that would be the only one. He still may go to Iowa State, who's also, Jensen is also at Millard South. But we ran out of time at the end of last week to talk about in-state recruiting a little bit more. And this will become a topic of, there'll be a couple other players that will maybe go elsewhere. Jace Reynolds is somebody who is on the radar, but, he may not. Nebraska likes him a lot from Elkhorn North. Great athlete. But he's got options elsewhere. Braylon Warren, starting quarterback at Westside. His dad, Steve, of course, has not been offered by Nebraska. I don't think he's going to be offered by Nebraska. But to bring this back to in-state recruiting, and Rule has done a very good job of guys they've wanted in-state, they've gotten.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next 2 years aren't as deep as the previous 2 years. But there's another part of the in-state recruiting that has to happen. And this now is not on a Rule thing. This is on the player thing. And I'm going to stand up for Omaha because I love the high school football in Omaha. I see a lot of it. I see it every Thursday and Friday during the season. I see a high school football game. And we've had some really, really good talent here. We've had some talent that have gone elsewhere.
Yeah.
Noah Fant. I mean, I could go on and on and on. You know, X-Man, Xavier Watts will probably be the first Notre Dame player drafted.
Him or Benjamin Morrison, from
Omaha Burke. But the guys that stay in state and go to Lincoln need to start producing. Because I was going through the depth chart, and this is a big deal, especially for Omaha kids. Man, we need to get, because there have been Omaha kids that have left, that went to Lincoln and said, I'm out. Just because it wasn't the right fit. Maybe they shouldn't have been offered a scholarship because they weren't ready for being great in high school, and then all of a sudden the attention is on you when you get to Lincoln. So the Donovan Jones and the Caleb Bennings, who I think both have a chance to start in the fall, Omaha guys need to start to go to Nebraska and produce. But it also is in-state guys need to start to produce. The guys on the current roster, if they produce, maybe there's an extra offer for a guy that might be a fringe player. Because if I'm looking at the depth chart, and I think there's a chance that Donovan and Caleb both could start. But then I'm looking at the offensive depth chart. Gatula started.
Yeah.
So there's Lincoln Southeast. You'll have a double tight end from Papillion La Vista and Kearney Catholic. Are there any other Nebraskans that you could say right now, I think they're going to start in 2025?
No.
The wild card of like this whole discussion about in-state and production, you know, Rule is standing up for what he believes, and Rule has to be right. Like Dayton Raiola has to be the guy.
Sure.
Because if Tomala goes over to Ames and balls
kills
out,
it's going to look absolutely awful.
If he replaces Rocco Breck and, you know, he's like, we didn't even miss a beat, that's not a good look.
No.
But really, in this whole discussion about in-state guys, it does put the onus on Nebraska and this player that Carter Nelson needs to start, when he gets healthy and back on the field, start to make a jump up where he becomes what we thought he was going to be in high school, as this incredible athlete, comes to Nebraska, he looks exactly the same and even better, and then he's on to the NFL.
Matt Rule and his staff, they're not from around here, right? They're from the Northeast. And so they come in and they have a perception of what Nebraska high school football was before they got here, right? And they go and they recruit these guys. And I definitely do, without a doubt, in my mind, when they recruit a guy from in-state in Nebraska and he doesn't perform, or they're not as good as maybe they perceived, or they end up going elsewhere, it does doubt a little bit in the future of whether or not you're going to go and get a guy in state, of whether or not, hey, these guys were the best guys in state. We brought them in here and they couldn't perform. It affects class to class, year to year. But I think another thing too, you brought it up a little bit. You were getting there with the pressure, right? If you're a Nebraska high school football player, when you go to Nebraska, the minute you step on campus, the minute you're there are people talking about you because they know you already. They've seen you play in high school. There's a ton of pride there. They want you, probably more than any other recruit, to go out and play well and do well because there's that pride there. But I wonder if some of these high school recruits in state are thinking, man, maybe I don't want to do that. And I want to go to a different school and just be, oh yeah, the recruit from Nebraska. Oh, that guy's just from Nebraska. He's a 3-star recruit, whatever. And I can just go out there and I can perform and I can play, because there is that added element that I definitely do think affects some guys in a way where you have that added pressure and it could be too much for him. And so I think that
Malachi Coleman should have never come to Nebraska.
Yeah.
He was not prepared for coming to Nebraska.
And I think that when
and I hope he does well at Minnesota.
When you have guys like that, I'm sure they talk to each other. I'm sure recruits share their stories. And I'm sure when they go out there and they go to Nebraska and they can't handle their pressure, they talk to other guys and they tell them, hey, in the future, just so you know, when you're a recruit, when you're a high school recruit and you go there, it's different than when you go somewhere else, right? And that's something that you have to deal with. And so I think this whole Iowa State, the Cyclones invading Nebraska.
Nebraska clones, please.
Nebraska clones. It's most definitely
not as it doesn't roll off your tongue like Calabrasca, but
no. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. I think, like in terms of Nebraska being very selective, but then
well, the 105 also has limited your offers because I think Nebraska probably going a little bit smaller with high school classes moving forward until they figure out what percentage works. So if you're Iowa State, and I imagine Iowa State did not have 140 guys when they heard they got to get to 105, so they have a little bit more room. Maybe they're a little bit more top end with seniors in the 25 roster, so they have more spots on the 26. I mean, it makes sense. I've said this for the longest time, and I like Matt Campbell a lot.
Yeah,
I think Matt Campbell, first of all, him still being at Iowa State is a bonus for the Clones. He's successful. He's been in 2 Big 12 championship games. Look at the NFL talent that he churns out.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this aloud, he was on probably 5-6 years ago. We had this discussion with him about how come I don't see Iowa State here more.
Sure.
Jake Waters won his championship as a quarterback at Iowa Western, went to Council Bluffs St. Albert. He's been on his staff. How come they don't have more of a presence? I'm glad to see them over here.
Sure.
But if Nebraska's getting beat head to head by Iowa State of a prospect that they want, that is, Nebraska wants him, and Nebraska was first in, Iowa State comes in, makes an offer, and Nebraska loses, then we got to start going, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with, and it all comes back to this. If you're winning and you don't have Nebraska kids on your roster, people don't care. You're losing and you don't have Nebraska kids on your roster, people are like, you know what? If you had like that Easton Stick, he'd be doing it for you. But being selective, it makes the offer even more of a feel to an in-state player because they compare themselves.
Sure.
I've seen this happen before. I'm the best player in the state, or maybe I'm considered the ratings of the second best player, but the guy at Lincoln Southeast got an offer and I've gone against him.
Yeah. And I've beaten him and I've torn it up and I'm a better player than him. Well, here's another thing to consider too, though. I feel like where we are at in college sports in general, there are so many things with every ruling and every new rule and legislation. I feel like we destroy connections. We destroy uniqueness of college sports. We make it harder for fans to really connect with players as well as much as they used to.
It's called the Colorado effect. It's called the transient roster.
Yes, and every year we're flipping rosters and we're having new players and whatnot. There's a lot of pride from this state when a Nebraska kid is playing for the team, and I am all for. I'm on your wavelength here. I'm all for Nebraska being more selective when it comes to in-state kids, and I'm for Nebraska just worrying about getting the best talent they absolutely can in order to win games. At the same time, you cannot just completely abandon it and just have years where, oh no, we don't take anybody at all. Like you still need to have just a little bit of that in-state Nebraska connection on this roster because it just matters. It just matters a little bit more. And I get what you're saying, and I understand, yeah, you want to get the best talent as possible, but I just hate it when our connections to sports just kind of just deteriorate and go away. And so when Nebraska does identify a talent, an in-state talent that they want, they have to get them. They have to get them, and not just because and not just from a talent perspective, but from a fan connection perspective. They have to get them.
Going back to what I said, Matt, it would help if local kids,
if they were awesome,
if they, especially from Omaha, like Bellevue West has had a hell of a run of talent, but Bellevue West kids don't last in Lincoln. And I'm like, man, that guy was a baller in high school. I wanted so badly for blank, blank, blank to pan out. We got to, in-state kids got to go to Lincoln, and then this is on them, a little bit of the coaches, but be prepared for the mental part, the grind, the jump, the attention.
Yes.
And perform well. And that's why, like, Carter Nelson can't fail for Matt Rule.
It's one of those things where, and this isn't inside sources, right? This is just me, just not even speculative, just looking at humans, right? If you recruit kids from a state and 5 or 6 of those kids from that state don't pan out, you're going to have some hesitancy of going back to that state and going back to that school.
I think, fair or not, Bellevue West is one of those programs you look at. Mike Huffman has one of the top programs in the state. They churn out all kinds of really, really good players, good people as well. He has a really, really good coaching staff. But if you keep going back to the well, and you're going to,
Yeah.
because you appreciate Coach Huffman and you appreciate the kind of players that he develops, but if they come to your program and they're only here for a semester and they go elsewhere,
Yeah.
you might be a little bit hesitant. So that's why, come on, Lob, let's do work. By the way, he's had a good spring. Inside source I got on that one.
Love that.
Evan Bland joins us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, we welcome in a good friend from the Omaha World Herald, Evan Bland. We'll talk some baseball and some football. Good Easter Monday to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Morning.
Hey, let's go big picture, a little college athletic stuff, and I hope we can move on from Nico until Nebraska sees him in the Rose Bowl coming up in November. Are you more give a side eye to the prospect that now, or the player actually on a roster that holds out, or a school that is trying to convince a player that is not in the portal to go into the portal. Because Tennessee has had both of those things happen within the last week.
Say that again.
So are you more so, in the whole scope of college athletics right now, we have a player that has a quote unquote holdout and we lose our mind. Are you more upset about that, or what Tennessee tried to do with a TCU quarterback to convince him to go into the portal? He's not in the portal, is going to stay at TCU. So basically holdout compared to tampering.
Right. Well, I mean, one of them is a lot more prevalent than the other. So I think that's probably where you start. I mean, Matt Rule's been saying it for probably more than a year now about how rampant tampering is. And I mean, really, like, the meaning of that word seems to have almost gone away. Like, when you say a word over and over and over, like, you can't remember what it means. Like, that's almost what tampering's become, because it's just totally wide open. So I think people are more used to that. When you see it in like these stark of terms, I suppose that does add a little bit more meaning to it. It's not just sort of a generic, hey, let's kick the tires on this guy, or our analytics department says that guy would be good, and they reached out. Like, it was a specific situation of trying to address a need that everybody knows is there after what happened. But I still think it's the holdout portion. I mean, it was another just really obvious first example of how college football is becoming more like the NFL, and they're holding out for contract negotiation terms. And, I think, like, it seems like every legal battle that's going on right now, it's coming down in favor of the player. It's coming down in favor of individual rights. That's where society has turned a lot in the last handful of years. And I think that's been reflected in some of these court decisions. And so to see an example where the individual and their rights sort of don't take that next step, I thought was notable. The fact that the school does sort of stand up for itself and say, hey, we had an agreement, and they call the player on their bluff and say, if you don't like it, then go. I think that has stood out more. I think people have, like, the casual college football fans that I have heard from have praised that move and said, good for Tennessee. They're rooting for the institution over the player. And, maybe that it'll be interesting to see how that story plays out as the season goes on. And if Tennessee struggles in games next season, especially at the quarterback position, maybe the sentiment changes from what it is here in the off season. But yeah, I think the holdout piece certainly is that one that felt like it was the first of what could become a trend among some of the higher end players trying to leverage their situation. I don't know that his situation, he leveraged that correctly or got the best advice. And it sounds like he's going to be making possibly significantly less money than what he would have if he had stayed in Tennessee. Maybe he had more of a motivation to leave Tennessee than just the money. I suppose that's a possibility as well. But it just felt like that part of it was different from what we've seen. The tampering piece, that's continuing to be a problem, and I'm sure we haven't heard the last of that either.
Nebraska baseball picked up a honestly much-needed doublehead victory on Saturday against Northwestern. You wrote a great recap article about those two games and talked about how it's really important. Nebraska hasn't gotten enough quality starts, right, in terms of pitchers going 5 innings. Both Ty Horn and Jackson Brockett did that. You wrote something in that article that I'm really interested about, though, talking about Ty Horn and his cutter and how it was a pitch that he only threw about 5 times a game. He upped it to 30 times against Northwestern in a really good outing. Are you buying that maybe he is kind of, we can now count on Ty Horn a little bit more down the stretch because of this new pitch? Is this something that he's going to continue to do, or is it kind of just a one-off thing?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry it had to happen against your Northwestern Wildcats.
Oh, it's okay. We don't root for baseball. It's okay.
But no, I mean, it's to me, it's a development that continues the conversation, because I think you could say that Northwestern's offense generally is not a world-beating sort of unit, and so in some ways, like, you should be able to handle those guys, especially on the road. I'll be curious to see how that continues over. And that was really kind of the crux of what I was hoping to learn from that game was, these Horn and Brockett both had good outings. I was curious about what was sustainable from that moving forward. And so maybe that cutter is that piece. And he kind of described it as a slider, but with a little bit more of a sharp bite at the end, and it dips. And so that's going to create a little bit more swing and miss, or maybe some soft contact. And, he to me, I mean, Horn's been kind of that X factor all year for Nebraska pitching, where early on it was, you felt good about Mason McConaughey, but then, hey, how does the rest of the weekend come together? And it started with him. And now it's, well, you usually feel pretty good about Will Walsh, although last Friday was an exception. And then how do you get some length out of that next guy so you can set up your bullpen on Saturday and Sunday? And so, he was a guy, and we talked about it before, who was really highly recruited out of the state of Kansas. The staff likes him. I mean, Will Bolt said, he pretty much laid it out there. He said, we've stuck with this guy all year, and there have been some highs and some lows, and maybe this is the point in that year where you get some return on investment with that. And so I think the cutter shows that he's continuing to develop in season. That's something he worked on with Rob Childress, the pitching coach. And so, he's just, it's one of those situations where you kind of put a pin in that and say, how does that carry over to Maryland? How does that carry over to some of these key Big Ten series that are coming up down the road? But definitely a positive turn, and one that, I think is continuing to develop.
Hey, how come this team can't punch and just keep punching? Why do they have to be punched before they respond?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's one of the most frustrating parts about this team. I mean, Friday night, Will Bolt's jawline was pretty well set when he was talking about losing to Northwestern in a game that they came back in a few different times. Like it's really frustrating as a coach. I think it's probably really frustrating as a fan. Like when you have a team that you think, hey, they're just now figuring some things out and they've got some momentum, and then they drop a game like Friday night. And then you kind of can go the opposite way too and say, boy, is this team kind of what it is? Is it cooked? Is it going to sort of drift to the finish line? And then they win a few that boost their RPI and keep them in some of these, RPI and Big Ten standings races. And so it's been really up and down in that regard. And I think so. Sometimes that's the mentality piece for Nebraska baseball has been a struggle through the years. It's been a struggle in the midweek. I think sometimes, you hear kind of talk of motivation coming up, and it's specific to like some of these in-state rivals where Creighton clearly has a chip on its shoulder and wants to win these games, and Nebraska takes the approach of, hey, it's a marathon and every game counts. And so I think sometimes that does create a situation where Nebraska isn't necessarily self-motivated as much as they are just kind of wanting to stay steady. So maybe you saw some of that again Friday night. It'll be interesting how that carries over here into the midweek again. Kansas is a good team. They just swept Kansas State last week. So I think that mental piece has been there for this program for a while. And their best teams have tended to have pretty fiery vocal guys like Jackson Hallmark a few years ago, or Josh Caron became that guy for them last year. I don't know that it's obvious who that guy is for them right now, but I do think that's something they continue to work through. You just look at a team right now that they haven't won more than 3 games in a row all season. Like that's how up and down it is, and they just haven't been able to really get things rolling in a long-term perspective. So I'm not sure that's going to change in the last month. Maybe it will, but it's possible that's just sort of one of the characteristics of this team.
Currently in 14th place in the Big Ten standings. They're 1 game out of being in that Big Ten conference playoff convo. You got to be for top 12 teams make it. Does this series win? Has it convinced you at all that they could go on a run and they could do something special in the postseason if they make the Big Ten conference tourney, or are you still on wait and see mode right now?
I mean, I think it's possible. Sure. I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. Everybody left on their slate in the Big Ten is in I think 10th or lower in the standings right now. So I think if Nebraska continues to do what it just did, winning series, take 2 out of 3, maybe sneak a sweep in there, like you're going to be safely in that conference tournament field. And then you get to Omaha, and I think a lot of teams would look at Nebraska kind of with a wary eye and say, hey, this is a team that went the distance last year and made a regional, and hey, there are a lot of familiar names back. Last weekend, you saw Gabe Swanson kind of break out a little bit, and Will Bolt said he kind of played him on a hunch that he was starting to warm up, and he delivers a grand slam and hits the ball hard a few times and starts all weekend. So like you saw a little hint maybe there that one of their hottest bats or most proven producers over the years is heating up potentially a little bit. And so I just think it's such a veteran team that has figured it out before, and maybe it's just kind of taken them a while to settle in, and the schedule lines up that maybe they can make a run. And we just discussed the starting rotation, and if you stick with Horn and Brockett, and they can start giving you 5 a little more consistently, and the bullpen, I think, has arms that have shown they belong in the circle of trust. You got Tucker Timmerman back, and I think he's going to be a really key piece for them. So, yeah, I think there are a lot of things that you can point to and say this team's rounding into form, and some of the schedule stuff lines up. They've got some more home games. They have their longest homestand of the year coming up here in about a week. So I do think it's a chance to make a run, and I don't think they're out of the at-large conversation just yet in terms of RPI. You're still inside. You're right around 70, 75. That's within range to make a move if they have it in them to do. So, yeah, I think there's still some intrigue with this team, and they've got to go out and do it, obviously.
18 weeks from now, we'll be breaking down the Nebraska-Cincinnati game, but that's a ways down the road. So let's talk about the last week of spring. And I know you have talked to him and you've written about him. What does it say about Justin Evans that he immediately embraced playing center? He's played center. He's taken some snaps when need be. The snapping hasn't always been great, but a guy that was, multi-game starter at right guard jumps into center immediately. What does that say about him?
Well, I thought his comment last week about when did he know that he was going to be center, and his answer was when Ben Scott left. Yeah. Like that was a great answer, because you could tell that it was on his radar to move into that spot. He's been a guard for a couple of years, obviously a quiet kid, hadn't really talked to the media at all since coming to the school and until last week. So that was something that he wanted to do. He was, I think he was the backup behind Scott the last couple of years. Yep. And so that was what he wanted to do. And some of the snap stuff is still working out. To me, the piece that's the most interesting is that intangible side of it, to where, okay, you want to play center, you're going to have to come out of your shell and be vocal and be that guy who makes the calls at the line. And I think he already was pretty well prepared in terms of being able to read defenses and some of the technical things that go into being center. I think it was the other stuff. And I thought Dana Holgorsen laid it out there pretty well for him too, where this was a kid, if you think back to his recruiting process in high school, early on out of New Jersey, he had top offers from most of the SEC, and then he stopped growing. He settled in at 6'1", and a lot of these schools sort of ghosted him. I remember talking to him after he signed, and so I think he's played with that chip on his shoulder since that time. And what Holgorsen said was, forget about all that stuff. Like, you're a dude, go out and act like you're a dude, because you are. And so I think we're seeing that in real time with him. And you think about just the center position in general, that was one of those big question marks coming into spring was, hey, is it Sam Sledge? Is it Justin Evans? How is this line going to start coming together? And I think Evans, to his credit, has put a lot of that discussion to bed, where this is his job. He's going to talk in front of reporters and in front of the cameras and be that leader. And so you hear too what Matt Rule says about him, and some of the position coaches, they feel really strongly that he can be that guy. So a cool sort of stock up story this spring, and a guy who is, he's going to be in a new position, but he's done this in the Big Ten in the interior of the line for years now. So I think people should feel pretty good about it.
Evan, as always, we appreciate it. Have a great week. We'll see you on Saturday.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
See you, Evan.
That's Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald. The Husker Hunger Games are coming up on Saturday. The elimination of bodies.
The Husker Hunger Games?
Yep.
That is...
It'll be for the fans. They'll have a bunch of little things you can do.
The Hunger Games is like a terrible dystopian like idea in which people
Look at the world we live in.
Young kids die for entertainment. I don't know if Nebraska wants to be.
Hey, you got to challenge this. You got to challenge the status quo. The status quo isn't getting Nebraska football anywhere. You got to shake it up.
For some people,
what happens? What happens when Dylan
ever.
volunteers as tribute?
Worked out for Katniss Everdeen.
I volunteer.
Better hope you have a good backup. That's
Jalen. You're in. Dylan got picked for the Hunger Games. Sorry. You ready? I know it ain't
That'd be such Nebraska luck. Your quarterback gets eaten or something, and you have to go into the next one.
Would that be on Rule?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a culture problem.
Would you blame Rule if his quarterback got eaten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not damn pterodactyls in Lincoln, and he's not thinking.
Pterodactyls.
I would say that Rule doesn't. Rule had no luck with quarterbacks. Mayfield, Sims, Dylan. He thought he had a 5-star, and he got eaten.
I think those guys got eaten, but by a different thing.
All right. Coming up in the last hour, Jesse Rogers is going to join us in a little bit from ESPN to talk some Major League Baseball on 1620 The Zone. All right, kick off last hour. Welcome in a good friend from ESPN.com, Jesse Rogers. Good morning. Good morning, Jesse.
Oh, good morning. How's it going?
Good. All right, let's start first and foremost to a team that you see a lot. If I would have told you that they would play 21 of their first 24 against teams that were above 500, start a series with the Dodgers on Tuesday for 2, get the Phillies for 3 on the weekend. This is a team that's in first place. I think they have the most hits, tied for the most walks. They're tied for third in stolen bases. Without hyperventilating, this would be the Chicago Cubs. What do you believe to be true about the Cubs' start right now?
I think their offense is really good and sustainable. I don't think they're going to score 6 runs a game. That's tops in baseball right now. Most teams don't score 6 per game for an entire season. So that's going to come down, which means other areas need to step up if they want to continue on this pace. At 14-10, they're still just the 7th best winning percentage in the National League. But it was achieved through that schedule you mentioned. So they're going to push themselves past that 500 mark more and more as they move into the sort of easier months of the season. But they have to find some more pitching, I feel, long term. I think the starting rotation is good. I think it's pitching probably a little bit better than it will over time. And their bullpen still is getting figured out. So it's good. It could be really good. It's being sort of driven by their offense right now. But it's a long year, and you have to prepare for a slump and things that are more likely to happen than not, which starts with some of that run scoring will come down.
Jesse, sticking with the Cubs here, they're doing all this despite the fact they haven't had the contributions they were hoping for from Matt Shaw, who now has been sent back down to AAA Iowa. About 11 years ago at this point, a similar situation was had with Javi Baez, where he came up and he didn't hit well, and then they had to end up sending him back down to AAA. Are there any similarities in that regard you see from both of those situations, and just what's your outlook for his future at this point?
Well, look, you don't have to go all the way back to Javi Baez. There's plenty of players throughout the league and the Cubs. Ian Happ had to go back up and down. Kyle Schwarber had to go back up and down. This is the normal course, to be honest. If he had just burst on the scene at such a young age with little minor league experience and was great from day one, that would be the surprise, much as everybody wanted it to happen.
Sure.
Now, it sucks that he has to go back down. Like, you couldn't predict that necessarily, but this is more the norm than the other scenario I presented. So there's plenty of similarities with all good players that end up going down. Not all have to, but many do. So he's got to go through some changes at the plate, maybe get rid of that leg kick, there's some obvious angles they can work. And when they sent them down, it tells me they actually want him to change some things. It was something you can't do at the major league level.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm not too concerned. The guy has talent. I don't know if he'll ever make it back. Like, nobody knows. There's no crystal ball. But the point is, just because he went down doesn't mean, the dire straits are ahead for him. It's not all doom and gloom because he went down. So let's see how it all plays out. Let's see what changes he makes. Maybe that big leg kick is completely eliminated by the time he comes back up. But he's going to get another chance. And being sent down doesn't really tell you anything about the future. It just tells you about the present. He's not ready.
Jesus, that Iowa Cubs roster is absolutely loaded.
It is.
So yesterday is one of those days where we see Elly De La Cruz make a Elly De La Cruz play in the field. We know what he can do at the plate. And then you're watching Sunday Night Baseball, and you see Tatis, who is a large man, doing what he's doing. Can you recall a time, and there's plenty of guys in between, from Mookie Betts and so on and so forth, Acuna, Lindor. Can you recall a time when we've seen as much athleticism that is in the game of baseball like we see now?
It's pretty good. It reminds me of other sports like basketball. Just there's just better everything: nutrition, training, youth sports in terms of getting in shape, almost done sometimes, right? But the athleticism at shortstop, for example, we never had that in the old days, or if we did, it was all field, no hit. So it's all moving in that direction more and more. But it doesn't surprise me because that's the direction it should go in as technology advances, as things you learn about your own body and how to take care of it and nutrition, all these things. So, I'm amazed by it, but not surprised by it. And it does make for the game, more fun. I like my shortstops being able to do everything and not just field like, Ozzie Smith did in the old days. So it's pretty cool. But I mean, we've always had good athleticism, but some of these guys have now, they're at peak form, and it reminds me of the NBA. The difference in the NBA now and the old days, among many things, is the physicality, the size of these guys, the way they can move. Now, sometimes that makes you more fragile, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And certainly in baseball, the harder you throw, the more fragile you are in a lot of ways. So there's some negatives to all of it, but the positives are these guys are the peak athletes. And you can't compare eras because of that, to me, because of the way they're built now compared to the old days.
Without a doubt. Hey, 20 games into the season, for good or for bad, what has been the biggest surprise for you so far?
In the Cubs season or baseball?
Baseball in general. Baseball in general.
Well, I might put the Cubs leading the league in offense up there, to be honest. I actually have been surprised. Kyle Tucker's been such a seamless transition. If you want to stick with the Cubs for a moment, no slow start at all. Just picked up where he left off in Houston, and he's been great. So don't take that for granted. It's not easy to change leagues, teams, cities, the whole 9 yards, free agent year, and be as good as he has been. So seeing the Cubs lead the world in offense has been interesting. But I mean, I guess this shouldn't be a surprise, but the NL West being so good outside of the Rockies is just quite amazing. I think Buster Posey has brought a little sort of gravitas to the Giants back. He might turn that into a destination again. I love everything the Padres do. Obviously, the Dodgers are great, and I really like the Diamondbacks as well. So this early for the NL West to declare themselves the best division stands out to me. And I don't think there's any doubt they are the best. And I think the Dodgers have raised the tide there. They've raised everybody's, except for the Rockies. They've raised everybody's bar there, and I think it's great. It's a great division. The Cubs have played them a lot, so I've seen them a lot, and they are worthy of being the best division in baseball.
Hey, you've been to PNC many times in Pittsburgh, and Garrett Cole isn't walking back out of the dugout to start for the Pirates, but they now have a must-watch. Whenever Paul Skeens is pitching, we stop what we're doing and we watch the Pirates play. And the line of people that showed up for 20,000 bobbleheads on Saturday for a sold-out house was great, because Pittsburgh is a very good baseball town with a lot of history and a beautiful ballpark. But the fans chant, "Sell the team to the Nuttings." And then after the game, Paul Skeens drops this quote that they should put on a T-shirt and give him the key to the city. "Positive things and friendships don't win championships." What's the end game with Skeens and his stardom and his ability, and what happens in Pittsburgh?
Well, this is a line in the sand moment in a way, because other players have walked. Probably nobody as accomplished as Skeens will be by the time he's getting closer to free agency. But this is it, because since the Pirate players have walked, like Garrett Cole and other guys, we've seen small market teams sign up their own. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is a great example. Julio Rodriguez, great example. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't be signed already. Like, you could say, pitchers and this and that, but like, if you're not signing him, who are you signing? Like, you got to roll the dice eventually. Fine, if you don't do it now, you got to do it in the next year or so. Otherwise, you're going to start creeping towards free agency, and his agents are going to see dollar signs. So there should be a massive deal on the table right now for Paul Skeens. Make him a Pirate for life. He should be the face of the franchise, like Bobby Witt. That's what it should be. If it's not, they're going to have a real problem in Pittsburgh, because they haven't had a player like this in a long time. Even Garrett Cole didn't have this kind of hype. And frankly, Garrett Cole became even a better pitcher after he left. Skeens is as good as they come, and he's just in his first full year. So this, to me, is the line in the sand moment for Pittsburgh ownership. He stays, you've got something. He goes, you've got a riot on your hands.
Sticking to Skeens here, let me make you the commissioner for 1 second. What's better for baseball? Pittsburgh signing Paul Skeens long-term and him staying in a smaller market, or Paul Skeens going to a bigger market and being on the national stage more?
I think it's better for baseball if he stays. I think the commissioner would admit that as well. I think it's better for each and every homegrown star to stay. I think that for obvious reasons. Just there's so many benefits. So yeah, I think that's the goal. Keep your own stars and then add on here and there, even if you're a small market team. And then all of a sudden, we've got a level of parity that the league wants.
Yeah.
So we're not there yet, though. And if he walks, it's just another sore eye for Pittsburgh and the league and the sport, to be honest, because players like that should not be moving on to other teams. And for all we know, he'll move on sooner rather than later because they probably trade him before he gets to free agency.
Yeah.
So Pirate fans enjoy the 3 or 4 years because he could be gone. But you got to have some faith that they will sign this guy up, because if it's not him, then who? And I get that attitude from Pirate fans. If not him, then who? And so we'll see. Let's see how it all plays out.
Hey, well, closer to, and we're all here in the Midwest, but I want to ask you about the Twins. So the Twins are rolling last year, and then all of a sudden August came, and then September, and then they decided to turn around. Let's play baseball in April. The Twins are 19-42, Jesse, in their last 61. Yes, they've had injuries. Buxton, Correa, Royce Lewis, Pablo Lopez did a rehab yesterday in St. Paul. What's going on with the Twins on the field? And then it seems like this momentum for the Pohlads to finally sell has hit the wall. What do you think is percolating at Target Field?
Yeah, I've never been a big Twins guy. I'm going back just these last few years as the division's kind of been jumbled up, and a lot of people claim they have the best talent. People were saying that this year. They just have to stay healthy. Well, that's part of it. Like availability is part of it. And so I've never been the biggest Twins guy. When we do our preseason predictions, I never really picked the Twins, partly because of the injury factor. It hasn't really meshed in my world. I mean, I think there's some managers probably on the hot seat. Brandon Hyde's probably at the top of the list, and Rocco Baldelli's got to be there as well. Yeah, I know there's some ownership turmoil, but the Padres lost their owner and have had all sorts of ownership turmoil, and they're rolling. So it's about culture, and it's about winning despite ownership, roadblocks or issues or whatever the case may be. And I think the Padres under AJ Preller have been able to do that. I just feel like either the Twins have underachieved or should never have been rated that highly in the first place. Sure. Either way, that's on management and the guy in the dugout, who usually takes the fall first and foremost. But those guys that can't stay healthy, you got to include them in the mix also. Very underachieving in a lot of different ways over the last few years. So that's how I assess the Twins.
Jesse, when you came on here for the preseason, we had a great conversation about the American League, and it just seemed like there are so many different teams that you think could be competitive, and it was a tough call to say, who could win the pennant. 20 games in, has that changed at all?
Not too much.
Okay.
I think that I think I mentioned the Rangers then, and they've fallen back a little bit, but I think they're going to be legit. It's going to take a little bit, but I think the Rangers are legit. Looks like the Tigers are legit for based on what happened last year. The AL East, though, is up for grabs. I mean, is someone going to emerge as a great team? The Yankees might be it. They're 14-8. They could be it. But they're not that great because they have all those injuries. They're just good right now. So let's see how things play out. But no, I haven't seen much different. I do like the Rangers a lot. I think that's going to be a team to deal with down as the season moves along. They might turn out to be the class of the American League, especially if DeGrom can be DeGrom. So, but other than that, it is kind of a hodgepodge of teams that are trying to find themselves right now.
Jesse, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you.
You got it, guys. Be well. Take care.
Thank you, Jesse.
Rogers from ESPN.com. Best thing that could happen to the Kansas City Royals?
What? They scored 11 runs in 6 games?
Well, they just had the 2-8 road trip. They did win yesterday.
Came back, yeah.
Bobby Witt Jr.'s got a 13-game hitting streak. Do you know, though, on if you are on, is it FanDuel Sports?
Okay.
I think it's FanDuel Sports. He is Robert Witt.
Really?
Yeah. They don't call him Bobby. I noticed that when I was
Not even
scanning
just
some
Bob.
things last week.
Although Bob was
Wait,
his
on
dad.
the pregame or the postgame?
No, on the app. Not on the air. Not on the air. No,
okay.
not on the air.
Gotcha.
But they have him listed as Robert
Witt Jr.?
Yes.
That
Robert
sounds like
Witt the second.
He's now got a 13-game hitting streak. But the best thing that could happen to the Royals off that road trip,
Melendez gets sent down?
no, that's a benefit, is guess who is at the K beginning tomorrow night?
Who?
The Colorado Rockies.
Slump
who
busters.
had lost 8 in a row until they won the second game of that doubleheader last night against the Nationals.
Hey, don't act like the Boston Red Sox announcers here and start saying, all right, Red Sox are going to Chicago. Man, they need it. They need to get to Chicago immediately. And then they end up losing 2 of 3, and then they lost again. You can't jinx them, right? I mean, that doesn't always work. The Red Sox were like, thank God we're going to the cell. And then it actually ruined their season more than it helped them. So can't count your chickens before they hatch. By the way, the White Sox might
Little egg humor.
They might, dude, they're 5-16.
Hey, the pace is still good. We just can't go into a stretch where
no, it's not.
They just lost 6 in a row. So they will
they're an 8th through the season. So if you just multiply by 8, they're going to win 40 games.
The schedule gets better.
Are you looking at the schedule?
Yes.
You're a sicko.
I just need 54.
You are a sicko.
I don't care if they lose. Once they get to 54, if they lose every single game afterwards.
You're looking at a 55-win team's future schedule to plan out whether or not you're going to. That's a problem. That's a problem.
No, it's just I'm engaged in the White Sox season.
Why? Why?
I'm not going to lie. I'm engaged in this whole little back and forth.
Honest with you, the White Sox aren't even engaged in the White Sox season.
60% of their wins have been against the Red Sox. That says something.
Isn't it funny?
Will Venables goes into the locker room and he goes, "Who's Kyle going to pick?"
Isn't it great? It literally is what? Just 2 wins a week. Just got to win 2 games a week.
But we can't have
nice things.
6-game losing streaks can't become 7. Like on getaway day, we got to sneak a win out.
I remember last year when they were going through their first 16-game losing streak, right? And my buddy goes, "Hey, well, at least they can't do it again. It can't get worse than that." And I looked at him, I go, "Oh no, it can get worse. You got
Buddy
enough
Bell once
time."
said,
and boy, did it. That was incredible. That was the most exciting part of the season, the 20-game losing streak.
Here's the thing about the Cubs, as part of the White Sox and Rockies being so bad, is the schedule the Cubs have played. So they played 21 of their 24 games have been played against teams that are above 500 or at 500 or above. And we're playing the entire NL West.
Yeah.
Can we not just mix in a, hey, here's the Rockies?
I was just going to say, where's the Rockies?
Can I get a Marlins game? I'm sorry. Can we play Miami? Or can we play Minnesota? Can we play anybody in the AL Central that's not the Detroit Tigers or the Cleveland Guardians? We'll take any of those 3 teams. By the way, too. All right. So I'm annoyed by this. So they go out and they do the West Coast trip. All right, fine. No problem. You know what? Happier that they get it out of the way in April than in June and July when I'm really locked in and I want to watch the 1:00 games, right? But why are the West Coast teams now coming to us? Why are we doing that so early in the year? I feel like you should spread the love a little bit. I feel like the West Coast team should come in August or September.
Well, why does Major League Baseball want to start opening day in the Midwest? Why don't they start every team that has a dome or can close their roof? Why don't they host home games? Why doesn't everybody
now you're just making sense.
Why doesn't everybody in California start at home?
Yeah. It would be really smart, wouldn't it? Hey, by the way, the Diamondbacks have to trade Eugenio Suarez immediately just to maximize his value because he's not playing the Cubs anymore. So his stats are going to be terrible.
So he's going to be on the Dodgers, Phillies, or Pirates.
Yeah. So you gotta get rid of Eugenio now so you can get as much as you possibly can.
They loved him in Seattle. The Cubs will see Skeens on the 30th because I'm still following along to see if he's going to pitch in Kansas City in July.
Would you go to is he pitching at Wrigley on the 30th?
No, that's and so they finish the homestand with 2 at the Dodgers and then 3 with the Phillies, and then they go to Pittsburgh.
Gotcha. I don't know if that was a
3
weekend.
and
Skeens was out in Wrigley. I don't know. I might make a trip. I might have made a trip out of that.
All right. We don't even know if Josh is running. Okay, there's just none of those guys look like Josh.
It's possible it could have all been a ruse.
This is the
He's really at Fenway.
Pack, Gary. These guys are running like sub 5-minute miles.
I think Josh was pulling our leg. I don't see him in the Boston Marathon running.
Look at this guy on the left here. He is a tall drink of water. He is a good foot taller than everybody else.
So he'll play the 5.
Why don't
look at him? Look at him. They zoom out. The dude is a good 18 inches taller than everybody.
Well, look who he's standing next to.
Exactly.
Ethiopians and Nigerians are not very tall.
And Kenyans.
Yes.
But
shout out Christian Okoye.
And this guy, dude, the dudes who do this on a wheelchair, the upper body strength is ridiculous.
12 years ago, David Ortiz's speech. Now the Boston Marathon, 129th edition. If you haven't heard, very own Josh Peterson is running at some point this morning.
So does that mean he won't be on USC today?
Hey guys, yeah.
Well, why not? Humble brag. He did something none of us are going to do.
Vacation is just vacation.
You know what, Jimmy? I will say confidently, I will never run a marathon in my life. Hopefully I will do a lot of things.
And
that is not one of them.
We're better for it because you might go down.
I'd be insufferable.
Gary Madden, 1620 The Zone. All right, the Phillies tonight play at Citi Field against the Mets. So
the Mets.
The Pope has passed away.
This
is the 39th anniversary of Geraldo and
Good
Al Capone.
call.
Incredible call.
Get
Gary
thee to
Sharp.
Warhorse, Matt.
Hey, 9 years ago today, we lost an absolute friggin' legend. This is the day that Prince passed away at the age of 57. But the Pope passing away overnight. Castellanos and the Phillies are in New York to take on the Mets. Will there be an addition to the Wikipedia page?
Wow, the odds have lowered.
Tell you what I'm doing on my underdog today. Let's take a
drastically.
look.
No. I'll tell you. So typically a Nick Castellanos home run has been a plus 550 prop.
Mm-hmm.
It is plus 475 today. It has moved down a whole 75, which, by the way, he is by far, like, there are players that have twice as many homers as he does who have worse odds to hit a home run today. It's like the market knows. The market understands. He's going to do it. It's black magic.
Make one now, yeah.
It's black magic.
Will there be an addition to the Wikipedia page, Drive into Deep Left Field by Castellanos?
I'm hoping.
That is the Wikipedia page. Hopefully you have it bookmarked. But Phillies do play today against the Mets. So one of the things of WrestleMania, among other things, by the way, I wish around here we had as good a rivalry as Michigan, Ohio State have. Did you see the sign? So the guy that shows up at a lot of sporting events now used to be John 3:16. It is now the guy that has the Michigan, Ohio State sign of how many days it's been since Ohio State beat Michigan. So we had the Naz Reid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Okay, and then we have the Michigan, Ohio State sign guy. And then we had the guy that was the timekeeper.
In the green shirt.
Yeah. And so the story is he was injured by a wrestler.
Oh.
And so with the fear of being sued, they let him come at WrestleMania and be the timekeeper.
Hell yeah.
Because he doesn't fit in. He is sitting like near the announcer, just wearing like a regular
green
t-shirt. He's not dressed up or anything like that. But
did you see they were training him? Did you see them doing the training? They were going through. Oh, it was a beautiful
So that's
video.
the story. Like that's the conspiracy on wrestling Twitter.
Hey, good for him.
Also, so Stone Cold Steve Austin, they had so many cameos. Travis Scott was one of them.
Yeah. The Rock, who was a big deal, big part of the story. He wasn't there.
But if you're going to pay $20,000 to sit ringside at WrestleMania, at least you could get killed by Stone Cold in a ATV running you over. I mean, that's just part of the deal. Like that was like if you have a story to tell.
Wow, we had Shamu in the splash
So
zone.
Stone Cold was hammered. So hammered. But here's the thing. Why is it when Stone Cold has a beer thrown his way, whether he's hammered or not, all of a sudden he becomes Andrew Jones with gold gloves? He can make any catch of a beer that is thrown his way.
You see Cam Smith last night?
It doesn't matter the age. I mean, he's going to be able to snag
Jim Edmonds.
like Andrew Jones would run down fly balls at Fulton County in center field or at Turner Field. It's an amazing. It's one of the best things that they created that has stuck with Stone Cold Steve Austin forever.
I don't think he needed those beers based off of his driving ability. Not even just when he ran into the side of the
Georgia
barrier.
football?
He missed the ramp. There's a backstage video of him missing the ramp.
Georgia football had a good day yesterday. They did.
They did have a good day. Oh, I thought you were making a driving joke. They did. Josh McRae is an awesome addition for him. Anyway, going back to Stone Cold Steve Austin, it's almost like he did it for 10 years. You know, it's almost like for 10 years, all that dude did. Isn't that a great job? You just wind, rain, sleet, snow. It did not matter if he was wrestling or just on the microphone. That guy, 4 nights a week, was just throwing beers, opened them, barely chugged them, had about four a time. I mean, there's no better job. And he became a legend. He's not just like to this day, Stone Cold Steve Austin's merchandise is number one for the WWE.
Yeah. He inspired us when we were young.
Consistently, year in and year out, top 3 in merchandise. It is like a cult. He's not just a wrestler. Like he is one of those last cultural phenomenons that wrestling has produced. Him and The Rock are both like, they're probably the last ones where they supersede just being a wrestling
There's
man.
a ticket I'd
Like,
vote for.
you can wear The Rock stuff anywhere. You can wear Stone Cold Steve Austin stuff anywhere. I don't think you can really. Can you wear a Cody Rhodes shirt? out, and
I don't know.
everybody gets
Dusty-
what it means?
I think that storyline caught lightning in a bottle.
It was.
But here's what'll happen: is they won't let Cena retire with the belt, so Cody Rhodes will chase him now from now until December. But I think the lightning in the bottle with Cody, it just everything fell in line with the bloodline. Just a weird, like they had such a great year last year that this year the build up we talked about it on Friday it just wasn't there.
It wasn't just,
and then the last match didn't pop.
It wasn't just lightning in a bottle, because I think that is like a major understatement to what that story actually was, because it dated back to his father, Dusty Rhodes, who was one of the greatest wrestlers ever and one of the most iconic wrestlers ever. It dated back to him not winning the title. I mean, this was a story that was like 40 years in the making, that blurred the lines between like reality and fiction, which is like what wrestling does best. And then on top of that, you just happen to have a champion who had been a champion for so long because the product was suffering, and not a lot of people were talking about it and mentioning that 4 years ago, the WWE was not in a good spot.
No.
And now it is.
Hit the breaking news sounder.
I wondered if you saw that.
Yeah.
Somebody got paid.
This is according to Adam Schefter.
Dinner
Pro
on
Bowl
him.
center Cam Jurgens and the Eagles have reached an agreement on a 4-year, $68 million extension
Wow.
that includes $39.4 million guaranteed. He will be in Philadelphia through 2029. Man, that is a great story.
1890 on line 1.
Well, how about the country club that didn't know who he was
Yeah.
in Lincoln, and
He
he went
can
to
buy it.
he went to the other country club?
What is it? 4 years, $68 million. Let me do some math here.
He will be well to do.
He'll be able to buy a lot of jerky with all that money.
So
But
let's-
great for him. Hey, it's like the great American Nebraska kid,
Yes.
offensive lineman at Nebraska story. You know, if you were with us earlier on this week being the NFL draft in
Yeah, there you go.
1984, guy from small town Nebraska named Dean Steinkuhler gets drafted second overall and goes on to have a nice little NFL career. Cam Jurgens, legend in Beatrice, comes to Nebraska. I mean, he is the highest paid former tight end moved to center in the NFL. That is awesome for him.
I don't know. Did Kelsey make more than him? Did his predecessor make more than him? So it's 17.
I don't think Kelsey ever got that type of a contract. This is a
monster.
This is nearly $40 million guaranteed for Cam Jurgens.
This is we love you. You're going to be an anchor for this line.
And
for
here's
a
the
long
other
time.
thing. People that know Cam know that this will not change him. He will still show up when he comes back to Lincoln wearing jorts.
That's awesome. $17 million a year is the total. It makes him the second highest paid center in the league, only under Creed Humphrey, who's making $18 million a year. His $39 million total guaranteed is the third highest in the league. It's behind Frank Ragnow and also Creed Humphrey. So doesn't reset the market, but definitely does a lot of favors for the guys who are trying to get under that, because there was a massive gap between Humphrey at $18 million and Drew Dahlman, who just signed with the Bears, at $14 million.
Yeah.
So now Jurgens does a lot of favors and gets into that little middle upper echelon. So the next deal for guys could be anywhere from 15 to 60 million, which is great for those centers in the market. I'll tell you something. You talk about his journey from Nebraska, right? Tight end turned center. You know, Scott Frost believed in him, ends up getting picked in the third round. He had a journey as it was with the Eagles, right? He sits his first year, right? He's just studying behind Jason Kelsey. They then have a need at guard. He doesn't have that great of a season at guard, if we're being honest. I mean, it was not an easy position for him to play, and they needed him to do it, and he did it. And I mean, he wasn't terrible, but it clearly was, he was out of position. He was a center. To then, a lot of Philadelphia fans were doubting him. A lot of Eagles fans, I mean, he wasn't the most popular guy heading into this season. And so he comes in. Oh, no, yeah. No,
because Jason embraced him. I thought that helped him.
Well, you know what? It helped him moving to center for sure, but the season that he had at guard, and he made some mistakes that were pretty clear on the picture, and the Eagles were a good team, and they had that collapse, and they were on national TV a lot, and so a lot of those guys weren't popular heading into the year, if we're being honest, because of how that season ended. And so the fact that he goes from sitting to out of position to having an incredible year at center to now signing this contract, I mean, it's an incredible journey for him, just from a NFL perspective.
Well, let me give you. This is so, Cam's relationship with all of us, it was not the greatest, because I'm going to give you a scenario. This shows you that, man, a guy that's stuck with his craft, and I'm glad that he got paid. COVID year, Nebraska's playing over in Iowa City. And that was, remember the game that was Clapgate?
Yes.
Okay. So
BS.
The end of the first half, Cam Jurgens thinks that Iowa's clapping, and so it throws him off. And he snaps the ball over the head of Adrian Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Martinez gets sacked, and it's a 19-yard loss. Jurgens comes out of the game. Matt Farniok slides over from right guard and is center. And Nebraska then scores a touchdown on that drive. Cam Jurgens comes in and plays the second half, 0 errant snaps. And, he went through his snapping issues where people were ready to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And then he played with a lot of anger his last year. Got stupid, not him, but bad call on the 15-yard penalty against Oklahoma where he kept blocking his man, 35 yards down the field.
Yeah.
And then the way it ended where, I think Cam was ready to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think he caught Frost off guard that he was going to go into the draft early. But, man, he's had a great career. He's also, on a side note, awesome dude.
Yeah.
And for a guy that was basically everybody around here was ready to kick him to the curb because he couldn't snap the football. I mean, that was
crazy.
That was a major issue.
Yeah.
He couldn't snap the football.
Wild.
And then he got it fixed. And look, today he got paid. Man,
that's awesome.
that is great for him. We will see if 1890 is having a private visit with him, and if we see something that has Cam Jurgens' name on it down in Lincoln.
That'd be awesome. That'd be incredible. Hey, shout out Jason Kelce real quick, because he scouted him. Like this was Jason Kelce's pick. I mean, it's very well known that Howie Roseman was like, hey, if you're going to have someone who comes after you, you're going to be the one to pick it. You're going to be the one to train them. And
I think that's pretty cool.
Kelce went through all different types of centers, all different types of tapes, and he picked Cam Jurgens. He said, no, this is the guy. And it's funny enough, he picked a guy very similar to him. Jason Kelce's a guy who, moved positions and was undersized for being an offensive lineman. And he looked at that and he picked a dude that thought emulated his game. So shout out to him. I know he's doing some things that make way more money than being a professional scout, but he definitely, this is one hell of a first pick. For your first pick ever to be in the third round,
be a consultant,
and you the guy ends up getting a $68 million contract. That's incredible.
Yeah. So congratulations to Cam. 39.4 of it is
Shout out
guaranteed.
Jeez. That's awesome. For a center, too.
No. Tight end, outside linebacker. There were some colleges that were recruiting him as outside linebacker when he was at Beatrice.
I remember that picture you shared a few weeks back.
We went to, so it was Sauter's 7-on-7 state championship the first year at Bellevue West. And I can't remember his name. Beatrice had a pretty good quarterback.
Okay.
But Cam was all over the place as a tight end, and he was making catches, and, that's what he was going to play at Nebraska.
Yeah.
And he got moved inside. So there was hope for Carter Nelson.
His guaranteed money alone is like more than the fifth highest paid center. They took care of
Howie Roseman takes care of guys, and he takes care of the draft. That's a scary thing for people in the NFC.
Do you think that, we're going to get to the point, the games have changed in terms of the athleticism, right? And you're seeing way more athleticism on, the defensive side of the ball, to the point where it's like nickel has become a standard package because you just want as many guys as possible to be as athletic and quick as possible. Do you think we'll see that transition in the offensive lineman, especially at that center position, as more and more of these, faster, undersized guys have success? I think that you got to look at the success of Kelce and the success of Cam Jurgens and the intricacies of that Eagles run game where it's everybody can pull, that maybe we're getting to the point where it's hey, obviously you need strength, but speed, I think, is something that, you'll be more invested in terms of prospects on the offensive line because of these guys who are just getting paid. I think it's interesting.
All right. We'll be getting jerky with it at some point this summer with Cam Jurgens and all that money and stability of playing in Philadelphia. All right, quick break. We'll come back. We'll put a wrap on the show. Centers matter.
They do.
Creed Humphrey.
Some say the most important position on the offensive line. And that person is
Justin Evans wants to be the next one to get paid.
It's
Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. You know anybody that went to Monster Jam at PBA this weekend, the Monster Trucks?
I don't know anyone, no. Have you ever been to a Monster Truck rally?
No.
They're loud.
But they used to be, are they still as large as they used to be where it's a packed house?
I don't know.
They must do well in Lincoln because they go to Lincoln a lot. I can't remember Last time we had Monster Jam in Omaha, if we've ever had it here.
There were a couple like real like famous monster trucks.
Bigfoot.
Like no, there are a couple. Are they still like that? Where there are people like who
I don't know
who like there
See
are
some on Dodge
well-known monster
periodically.
trucks. I used to
is Bigfoot still around?
maybe there was like
That's the only one
was
I
that
know.
the green one? There was like a green. and
Bigfoot was a
purple and
truck. Big
black
Boy was a
one.
train.
There was an orange one too. They would be on
And
like
Bigfoot.
Disney. It would be on like the Disney Channel. They'd like show like the monster truck. Like yeah, there was ads
Really?
or something like that growing up.
Like-
I
Oh,
remember.
ads. Okay.
Animated? Oh,
Oh,
ads
like
for
ads,
the
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
When you're
yeah.
watching iCarly
No.
and they have to. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. They were like ads for like the monster truck. Like for
The
whatever reason, they
nails.
were like all over Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney. It was just monster trucks. That's all I remember.
Still want some aggro crap.
I need to go to a rodeo though. Like a lot of people, I know a lot of people go to rodeos and they love it. It's a great time. I've never been to one.
It'll drive a cowboy crazy.
The rodeo was in Lincoln
Yeah,
a little while ago.
Make
I
his
need to
head
get
insane.
They now have
cowboy boots.
now have special seating where you can sit in the middle of the ring.
hell
You see all the bulls coming your way.
no, absolutely not.
Well, you could join me. I mean, we'll make the trip back to Burwell for the big Nebraska rodeo.
I'll join you maybe.
Mhm.
So the story here about Cam Jurgens, and people are writing it about Frost making the move from Cam Jurgens to tight end to center, which is about 7 years ago, because I think he did it in 2018. The backstory is kind of it. You know how John Cook has talked about moving Danny Busboom Kelly to libero and how that went down.
Yeah,
Like Cam has told the story on air. We had him on a couple years ago, and he didn't like talking about it when he was at Nebraska because he did not like it originally.
Oh,
Now remember, this is a guy that in high school at Beatrice was playing tight end, outside linebacker. He almost went to LSU. He went on a visit to LSU, but they wanted him to play defensive end, and it was just too far. I mean,
yeah.
here's a kid from Pickrell which is just outside of Beatrice, a little north of Beatrice, at Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So when Frost approached him and said, "I'm moving from tight end to center," he didn't like it at all. Like his mom Beth, who I've met a couple of times,
Mhm.
she tells a story that like Cam was not for it.
Wow.
And like I don't know that he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to transfer." He's not a quitter or anything like that, but was not vibing
That's crazy.
when they said, "We're going to change your body, we're going to put some weight on you, and we're going to move you to center." Of the things that we could rattle off that Frost did not do well,
yeah,
that's going to turn out to be one of the best things
Mhm.
for Cam Jurgens is moving him from tight end to center. And he
Changed
was
his
he
life.
was a good tight end. But
Yeah.
yeah, he did not like it at all. Like was like, whoa. Because
sure.
I don't think he never played there before.
Well,
Even though he's like usually the biggest guy on the field playing for Beatrice in Class B, he had never played center. And somehow Frost looked at him and said, "We see your body type where we can put weight on and make you a center." And I don't know if it was Greg Austin or somebody else said, "Hey, that guy's a center. That we need to make him a center. He's got a body to be a center, not a tackle."
Sure.
Which would make more sense of just bumping down one.
yeah.
They moved him all the way to center, and look at now he's got $39 million guaranteed dollars coming his way today.
Grave Digger was the truck.
The difference in positions, by the way, from tight end to center,
Not much.
uh,
Ben Scott could have slid out and played tight end, right?
it is massive. Like you go from being like a run blocker to, hey, I'm gonna be athletic and I'm gonna get the ball every once in a while and I'll be used as a safety valve in the offense, to no, you're gonna be holding the ball and you're gonna be making all the calls. And it's like if you make the wrong call, this whole operation is done and over with. Oh, and then on top of that, you gotta block these guys who, by the way, are much bigger than Cam Jurgens. I mean, Cam Jurgens went from, coming across, blocking as a tight end, maybe, to 6'1", 6'2" linebackers to, he's got 6'7" defensive linemen that he's got to help out with. I mean, the contrast in those two positions and the fact that he became what he became, it's an absolutely incredible story.
Would you guys like to guess? This would be, you're related to Cam Jurgens.
Well, I'm not. I wish I was.
I know I look like it, but I'm not.
Get a nice black. If I was a cousin of Cam Jurgens, it'd be like, hey man, congrats. Here's a $280 Blackstone. I mean, it's my birthday coming up.
Wow.
That's what I would be.
Do you know who was the first school to offer Cam Jurgens a scholarship?
Iowa State. I'm just basing
Texas
it on-
A&M.
Why
For
do
show.
you? Hey.
It's what you taught
The
me.
Nebraska clones, all right? We're getting enough of that, okay? We like Matt Campbell, but not everybody goes to Iowa State. Some people actually stay home, okay? and they drive 42 miles from Beatrice to go to Lincoln.
Some people actually like it here.
It was not Iowa State.
Okay.
But that would be a good guess because what was the running back? Oman. He ended up at Nebraska and then went to Northwest Missouri State.
It's probably Iowa.
When Bob Sexton was the head coach there, they had things rolling at Beatrice. They were churning out some really good players. All right, so you said Iowa State?
Iowa.
Doane.
Oh,
his first scholarship offer was to play basketball at Doane when he was a freshman at Beatrice.
That's awesome.
Jim Weeks, who is a Hall of Fame legendary high school basketball coach, his brief time when he was coaching at Doane and Crete, he offered Cam Jurgens as a 14-year-old a basketball scholarship.
That's insane. Thank God he didn't end up playing because I hate those pictures of Jimmy Graham and Julius Peppers and all of those. I'm not the biggest
Julius in the Final Four.
I'm not the biggest fan when they always cut to the, this guy used to play college baseball during a football broadcast or college basketball during a football broadcast.
Antonio Gates was good.
Was Cam a good basketball player?
I think because he was taller. I don't know much about his basketball.
Did you ever? You never saw him play?
No.
No.
I saw him play football and saw him play 7-on-7. And I thought, guy's a beast. David says, yes, his quarterback, Alec Cromer, was the quarterback. Cam's senior year, Beatrice was really, really good. But they had a quarterback that was like record-setting. Went to South Dakota State, never played there, and transferred to Nebraska as a punter. He was a pretty good punter in high school. I think he quit playing football.
It would have been awesome if I was like,
what happened to Beatrice football?
I don't know.
Recruiting? Is there kids from Beatrice that are going to school in Omaha?
But I mean,
probably.
We might have to do a little dive. Another one for the podcast.
So many podcast ideas.
5-parter.
So many take fives.
All right, that'll do it for the show. The crossover's coming up next. I got some things for Connor. I've saved up for Connor. Josh isn't even running. Where I haven't seen him on TV.
You're not going to see him. He's not going to pop up. All right. He's in the middle of the pack.
Are you saying
somewhere.
He's playing golf somewhere in our great state right now instead?
No, I think he's actually running. I think he's actually
in
going.
Boston.
Is there like a tracker? Is there a way to track?
He has a tracker that he shared with us.
Yeah, we're all chipped.
The least. Maybe this is a big news day. Cooper Flagg is declared for the NBA draft.
Oh, what a surprise!
I guess he's not going back to get that $10 million. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for putting up with us on a Monday. Happy Easter Monday, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at 6 with another edition of Gary and Matt. Crossovers coming up next.